Chapter 195, Phase Spider, Hiss. The Dark Shadow Spider Queen got hit by Yunkei's red lotus arrows again. The black-red legs on her back were in a very bad condition. Even though she had blocked all the attacks with her legs, the burning arrows still left scorch marks on her legs. Apparently, Yunkei's attack did cause damage to her. The Dark Shadow Spider Queen was stronger than Yunkei and Yunshi, however, when they had coordinated their attacks, they could fight against the Spider Queen. "My subordinates, come out." After finishing her evolution, the Dark Shadow Spider Queen had mastered a new ability. One green slime after another changed their shapes, transforming from round, cute slimes into terrible green spiders with green long legs. Weaving. This time, the Dark Shadow Spider Queen didn't just attack them with her web-like scents, but launched an attack with a real, sharp, transparent spider web, which could even cut through iron easily. With her body as the core, the area in the range of 100 meters had all been covered by her web. The green spiders immediately connected with the Dark Shadow Spider Queen's real body. "I'm the queen who will grant you the power of ferocity. Obey my orders, my children." One green spider after another chirped as if they had been injected with chicken blood, quickly crawling into the Dark Shadow Spider Queen's web in an orderly way. Just like all creatures in the void, the Dark Shadow Spider Queen's spider army was absolutely ordered and calm, totally different from Yunshi's Mist Soul army. However, these spiders weren't Dark Shadow spiders. On the contrary, they were Dark Shadow Spider's natural enemies, phase spiders. The phase spider race was one of the most terrible races amongst all lower-ranked void races. Their individual strength was far inferior to Dark Shadow Spiders, however, they were still the whole Dark Shadow Spider race's enemies because they had a special natural ability that was rare amongst all void races, short-range space jump. They didn't jump with their legs, but jumped through the space. They could instinctively enter a special space and cross it, suddenly appearing in front of their enemies and piercing through their enemies' bodies with their sharp, poisonous fangs. No one knew how these spiders were born and why they had such an incredible space-jumping ability. If their individual strength and defensive ability were higher, they probably would have become one of the overlord races in the void. The Dark Shadow Spider race was good at weaving webs to trap their prey, but it meant nothing to the phase spider race because they could jump through space within a short range. Fortunately, the phase spider race only inhabited parts of the unstable areas in the void, otherwise, they would have swept through 1/3 of the whole void. At the least, ordinary void races were no match for them. After becoming the queen, the Dark Shadow Spider Queen wasn't just the queen of Dark Shadow Spider race, but the queen of all kinds of spiders. After being blessed by Shaolongness, the Sky Sword, she had obtained a new ability to transform green slimes into phase spiders. If she could undergo another evolution, she would be able to create more spider races. Unfortunately, these spiders would be just some one-time biological weapons, but not her real offspring. Hiss. 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 The phase spiders launched a ferocious offensive at Yunshi's Mist Soul army. Space jumping. Seeing these spiders suddenly disappear and appear in the air, Yunshi's outlook was subverted. He could barely imagine that such a void creature really existed in the universe. If their space-jumping distance was longer, they could even instantly kill all mortal-ranked beings. Fortunately, Mist Souls were nearly immune to physical attack. Although a few Mist Soul girls had been torn into pieces under phase spiders' attacks, but they could replenish themselves from the mist around them and quickly return to the battlefield, so it wasn't a big problem. Phase spiders could jump through space, but Mist Souls could replenish themselves from mist. As long as Yunshi was still maintaining his water mist field, they could revive countless times. This was the meaning of White Emperor. As long as Yunshi, their emperor, was still alive, the Mist Soul army would be indestructible. Catch him. The Dark Shadow Spider Queen immediately realized that. She ordered her spider army to attack Yunshi. Boom! 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 Another round of red lotus arrows dropped from the sky, but this time, the Spider Queen's web precisely caught their tracks and intercepted them in the air. At the same time, all the phase spiders jumped into the special space, rushing towards Yunshi. 1, 2, 3. Yunshi took a deep breath, observing the spider's traces. After arriving at Water God's world, this was the first time that he was so close to death. These phase spiders were far more ferocious than the green hippos. Plus, because they could jump through space, his Mist Soul army couldn't stop them. 4. A crowd of phase spiders appeared in front of Yunshi about 10 meters away. Yunshi could even see their green legs clearly. A ring of silver light spread from his water god's mask. Instantly, the air temperature around Yunshi had fallen to an incredible degree. All things had lapsed into silence. A ring of crystal ice appeared and surrounded Yunshi, rotating slowly with cold air. Chapter 196. Retreat. Dozens of phase spiders had approached Yunshi, only a step away from him. Instantly, they had been sealed within the slowly rotating ice ring. Yunshi could clearly see the white hairs on their legs. Break! Yunshi looked at them coldly. The ice ring exploded, transforming into thousands of cracked ice fragments. Naturally, the phase spiders that had been sealed in the ice had also been turned into pieces. Their defense was too weak. This was their greatest weakness. If it had been Yunkei and not Yunshi who was surrounded by them, she probably wouldn't have killed them so easily because she wasn't good at AoE attacks. However, Yunshi was different because his mask, White Emperor, was his trump card. Surrounded by the endless mist, Yunshi could fight as long as he wanted. Amongst all water gods' masks, only White Emperor was named Emperor. It was unique. Maybe Yunshi couldn't fight against the Dark Shadow Spider Queen in close combat, but on the battlefield, he was invincible. Arranging attack formation. Gradually, Yunshi had become more and more familiar with the White Emperor mask. He could use more combat methods now. The Mist Soul army immediately divided into two camps. The first was the Assaulting camp that mimicked Ling Ling's Mist Soul as their leader, and the second was the Shooting camp, taking that mimicked Mei Lan's Mist Soul as their leader. The Mist Soul girls in the Assaulting camp were all female swordsmen. Their melee combat was as fast as the wind and as strong as iron. The Mist Soul girls in Shooting camp had all transformed their ice swords into ice lances. 88 ice lances were suspended above their heads. They coordinated with each other and compensated for each other. This was an army that was continuously improving and enhancing themselves. The most important point was that they wouldn't die, had no fear and confusion. They were Yunshi's swords, lances, and shields, eliminating all enemies for Yunshi. Shwa! 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 One ice lance after another broke through the air with whistles, locking on all the possible routes that the Dark Shadow Spider Queen could move to. Come out, my little spiders. Fight for me. The Dark Shadow Spider Queen shouted. One green slime after another transformed into new phase spiders. So that's how it is. Seeing this, Yunshi finally understood where these phase spiders were from. The methods used may vary, but the principle was the same. As Longness, the Sky Sword subordinate, the Dark Shadow Spider Queen couldn't really change these slimes' forms. She just ordered them to transform into phase spiders. Therefore, the only way to defeat the Dark Shadow Spider Queen was to eliminate all the green slimes. Boom! 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 At the same time, Yunkei had made the same judgment. She stopped attacking the Dark Shadow Spider Queen but instead shot her red lotus arrows at the ground. Each of her arrow could eliminate hundreds of green slimes, burning them into ashes. However, compared to Yun-Shi was more effective. He ordered his Mist Soul army to attack the Dark Shadow Spider Queen. Using this opportunity, he started to control the mist in the range of 10 kilometers. He caught the green slimes that were gushing out from the cave, expertly compressed them and overlapped them together. In the blink of an eye, the green gem in Yun-Shi's hand had become much larger than before. This was his method. Yun-Shi could easily see that the speed of the new spider's births was quickly decreasing. Without the green slimes, the Dark Shadow Spider Queen couldn't create phase spiders from nothing. During this period of time, Yun-Shi had frozen 3 waves of phase spiders that were trying to attack him. The balance of the battle had gradually started to favor Yun-Shi and Yun-Quebec. If one observed them from the sky, one would see the White Mist Soul army was gradually approaching the Dark Shadow Spider Queen. From time to time, there would be scorching red lotus arrows shooting at the queen, leaving fiery clouds on the ground. Humph! The Dark Shadow Spider Queen licked her lips. She had to admit that she underestimated her enemies. Neither Yun-Shi nor Yun-Kei was match for her. However, when they cooperated with each other, their combination completely restricted her abilities. The phase spiders and her true body had all been suppressed. It wasn't just as simple as 1 + 1. They must have cooperated with each other many times before to develop the tacit understanding they had. Every time she would try to involve herself in the battle using her true body, there would always be one terrible red lotus arrow after another blocked her way, and when she tried to command the spiders to approach the Mist Soul Girls' shooting camp, there would always be a team of Mist Soul Girls blocking their way. The mist in the air was interfering with her web-like sense. She could barely see anything outside the range of her web-like sense. If it wasn't because her true body was very powerful, she would have been driven to the wall. Finally, when only 1/10 of the green slimes were left on the ground, the Dark Shadow Spider Queen had to make a painful decision. "You won't have another opportunity." She stared at Yun-Shi's silver mask, firmly remembering his appearance in her heart. The Dark Shadow Spider Queen moved. Around her body, a large spider web spread into the air and firmly fixed into the ground. 8 thick spider threads were wrapped on the Spider Queen's body. With a cacophony, the Spider Queen stepped back, tensioning the spider threads like springs. The next second, with a shuffled sound, the Dark Shadow Spider Queen's body had been launched into the sky, instantly leaving the battlefield. Ah! Yun-Shi could only see the Dark Shadow Spider Queen's body flying to the boreal forest, then lost her trail. However, Yun-Shi and Yun-Kei knew that the battle had just begun. Chapter 197, Jealousy. Whoa. I think we have a troublesome enemy. Holding the bloody long bow in her hands, Yun-Kei looked at the forest with a serious expression. The strong enemies from Shay-Along's camp had arrived much earlier than she had expected. Although she hadn't figured out the Dark Shadow Spider Queen's exact details, but in theory, a powerful elite enemy like her should have arrived at the 3rd phase of the Sky Sword's coming. The Dark Shadow Spider Queen's existence itself had indicated that Shay-Along's, the Sky Sword's invasion of this world had entered a substantive stage. Water God's camp had little time left. She's very troublesome, in every sense. Yun-Shi couldn't forget the Dark Shadow Spider Queen's eyes when she left. It was a kind of scorching desire, it was an undisguised possessiveness. She was a queen-like beauty, but to Yun-Shi, she was just completely misfortunate. Sigh, it would be like heaven if everyone was as kind as Lulu. Yun-Shi had vaguely figured out why he was killed in his last life. Oh right, I want to ask you something. Yun-Kei turned around and gazed at the Mist Soul Girls with a cold look. Her, and sure. What are they? Aren't they the bride candidates on the scrolls I had given you? Perspiration poured down Yun-Shi's face. No. Yun-Kei had found out. Other than the mysterious black-haired beauty, the dangerous dark shadow spider queen, he had caught almost all the girls on Yunkei's scrolls in his dragnet. But it wasn't my fault. Only the 12 Starwings Night girls were my targets. I had never planned to propose to any other girls. He had presented them his handmade butter bread. He was simply expressing his happiness after having successfully proposed to the Starwings Night girls, because good things should be celebrated. If he shared his joy with others, then there would be more people feeling the same happiness, wasn't that right? He just hadn't expected that the tradition in this water god's world would be so special. Accepting his bread was equal to accepting his proposal. It was too strange. I should have known, you're just a notorious bastard, never understand to learn from mistakes. Yunkei stared at Yunxi in anger. From all angles, this guy was every female's enemy. Unfortunately, most females couldn't realize this and were willing to have a relationship with this shameless, salacious bastard. Were they blind? Indeed, he had high talent, was favored by water god, looked mature and handsome, could expertly control his water mist field. While Yunkei had to admit that at least, this bastard who called himself Yunhai really had a huge advantage in water god's world. He was like the chosen one of this world. Although both of them were water god's apostles, but he was far better at controlling water god's mask than her. She was an archer who only knew assassinate and reconnoiter, and he was the White Emperor, who could dominate the whole battlefield. He only needed to stand still and the endless mist would offer him unlimited power and a whole mist soul army would fight for him. In order to finish Water God's quest and fight against the Sky Sword's camp, his power was indispensable. It had nothing to do with his personality. It was just an undeniable fact. At least, you should learn to restrain yourself. You have had over 100 brides. Can you stand them all? Yunkei said, trying to persuade Yunxi, although she had turned around and avoided looking at Yunxi's face whilst she was talking. No, not enough, Yunxi smiled bitterly. After seeing the dark shadow spider queen, he had realized that the power from his 107 brides was insufficient for him to fight against Sheolongness, the Sky Sword's camp. To complete Water God's quest, he needed more brides. What? They're not enough. Yunkei was extremely furious. She didn't understand how a man could have so many brides and still not be satisfied with them. Someone needed to teach him a lesson. It's my ability, Yunxi hesitated, but finally decided to tell Yunkei a part of the truth. After all, it was very important. I need more and more brides, because I can become strong in this way. What? Yunkei finally realized, no, in fact, she had noticed it before. She just hadn't put the two pieces together. The number of the Mist Soul girls was the same as the number of Yunxi's fiancés. Even their appearances corresponded to Yunxi's fiancés 1-to-1. You have such an ability, Yunkei's body shivered. It was out of her imagination. She had never heard of such a thing even within the 10 Leaves Alliance. It was a miracle. You can obtain your bride's power. So, 107 brides are equal to a Mist Soul army of 107 people. I see. I understand. So that explains your shameless behavior. Therefore, you proposing to them was for expanding your Mist Soul army. Yunkei finally figured out the source of Yunxi's Mist Soul army. Her pupils dilated. How could that be possible? How could such a strong power existing in this world? Yes, the Mist Soul army is my mask's, White Emperor's power, Yunxi said. He hadn't lied, but he also hadn't told her the whole truth. He only explained why he had proposed to so many girls in this way. Mist Soul army. White Emperor mask. Yunkei solved the mystery. She finally understood why Yunhai had these weird abilities. The truth was hard to accept, but she had to recognize it. Could he be Water God's illegitimate child? Otherwise, how could his mask being stronger than hers be explained? Chapter 198, Yunkei's decision. Yunkei felt as if her outlook had collapsed at this moment. She was born a part of the dark elf race, a race that wasn't accepted by other elves and even the whole world. In order to obtain a powerful force, she had paid a lot. Her talent wasn't great. In order to obtain the things geniuses could obtain easily, she had to practice much harder, exceed her limits, and challenge her limits between life and death. For the justice she wanted to defend, her hands had been stained with blood. She had lost her innocence and kindness from a long time ago. The facts had proved that innocence and kindness couldn't save anything. In order to save more people, she had to fall into the darkness first, then eliminate her enemies with her bloodied hands. Only the victor could seize the future. With this belief, she had crossed endless bloody battlefields as her longbow became stained with blood. Only survival was her prime essence. Only the one living would be entitled to obtain victory. If one wanted to become strong, one must pay for it. Equivalent exchange had always been her principle, until she met that man. This man was loved by the whole world, was blessed by the god. His talent was far beyond her imagination, as bright as the sun. His existence had overturned all her common senses. For the first time in her life, she started to wonder whether her principle was absolutely right. How could anybody in the world outdo others so easily? Undoubtedly, this man was shameless, salacious, and absurd. However, he actually had such great talent. He could become stronger and stronger as long as he could marry as many girls as he wanted. It was so absurd that she couldn't even feel jealous. May I reconfirm it? You're not kidding me. Yunkei's eagle-like sharp eyes looked around, observing all the mist soul girls around Yunxi. Their appearances were consistent with the data. Their body shapes were consistent with the data. Their numbers were consistent with the data. Undoubtedly, they were consistent with the 107 brides in the village. Her observation was absolutely right, which made her grind her teeth. His ability is too powerful. What kind of blessing has the mask, White Emperor, cast onto you? Are you the god's son? Sigh, in fact, I don't want it, but that's what happened, Yunxi sighed. Yes, this ability wasn't his choice, but the only method the great stars had arranged for him. The water god's mask, White Emperor, and his Mist Soul army, were all from the special side quest for, to love, Starchild. It seemed that it was the key to accomplishing Water God's quest. It seemed that the great stars were using this method to teach him how to love. However, from the sleeping beauty in the dark forest to the princess in the tall tower, then to the three-figure fiancés, Yunxi had been completely taken by surprise. By the way, what love was in the great stars' minds? Yunxi felt that it was totally different from the common sense in the human world. Humph, you've had no cure. Yunkei ground her teeth, staring at Yunxi as if she was an abandoned dog in the wild and Yunxi was a pampered dog in a warm house. We're not similar. Yunkei confirmed this point in her heart again. Perhaps he was the so-called chosen one, so that he could live such an easy life and obtain girls' hearts so easily. He had accomplished 107 proposals and hadn't even failed once. It was ironic. Yunkei felt that her heart ached sharply when she just stood beside Yunxi. We are class enemies. How can a man in the sun, a man like you, understand the people in the darkness? To survive, we have to be ignoble and wary, and don't even dare to waste a trace of a resource. Do you know how much a loaf of fourth-ranked bread could sell for? And you just presented them to unknown girls disdainfully. It was too wasteful. Should I catch him and lock him up? If I let him make fourth-ranked bread every day, he would be more useful to society. Unconsciously, Yunkei had the same common thoughts as the dark shadow spider queen. However, your ability is indeed useful. Even though she felt resentment and aversion, Yun-Kei had to admit Yun-Shi's unique talent. You increase the number of your Mist Soul army by having more and more brides. It's a strategic advantageous ability. Putting aside her prejudice and dissatisfaction, Yun-Kei slightly deduced Yun-Shi's potential and had an adrenaline-pumping conclusion. It was a godlike ability. From what she had seen, the Mist Soul girls had the same abilities as their prototypes. Moreover, Mist Souls wouldn't die. Even though the army had only 107 people, it was still a powerful force. Now, she knew that the army could be expanded as long as this bastard married more and more girls. In this case, she had to make a tough decision. No matter how shameless, salacious, and unruly this man was, since he had such a godlike ability, she had to change her origin plan. Yun-Hai, I will help you. Go and marry as many girls as you can. Chapter 199, Expansion Plan, A Million Brides. What? Yun-Shi looked at Yun-Kei in surprise. Is she really the Yun-Kei I know? Shouldn't she be the one who always looks down on me and opposes me proposing to any girl? Don't look shocked. I still don't like what you've done, Yun-Kei said and looked at Yun-Shi coldly. She took a deep breath to adjust her mood. However, your ability is indispensable. Yes, this was the truth, which couldn't be changed by her will. No matter what Yun-Shi's character was like, as long as he had this ability, he would always be the water god's camp's strongest trump card. Even if Yun-Kei's power had been 10 times stronger than it currently was, she wouldn't be able to compare to Yun-Shi, whose mask was White Emperor. An assassin could never change the course of history, but an emperor could. The emperor was the one who could change everything and lead the world. No matter how kind a man was, if he couldn't help Yun-Kei accomplish her goal, that man would be meaningless to her. Similarly, even if a man was shameless and salacious, as long as his ability was indispensable, he would be important. Yun-Kei didn't like Yun-Shi, but she had to admit that he was special. His water god's mask was the key to changing the tide of battle between the two camps. Yun-Kei calculated the mask's, White Emperor's power, and her heart beat faster and faster. To her who was always calm, this was a rare gaffe. Does your Mist Soul army have a limit? Yun-Kei tried asking in a friendly tone, but her voice was weird. No. Anyone who has accepted my proposal will become part of my Mist Soul army. Yun-Shi shook his head. Hiss, Yun-Kei felt a chill. This special ability itself was already frightening enough, and now, it didn't even have an upper limit. It was ever more surprising. Then, does it have any requirement for your bride's strength? No, maybe, the requirement is that they can't be stronger than Water God. Yun-Shi answered in an uncertain tone. Anyhow, there shouldn't be any being that was stronger than Water God in this world. How? Yun-Kei was speechless. Compared to her mask, Yun-Shi's mask, White Emperor, was too strong. He must be Water God's illegitimate child. Otherwise, nothing could explain it. No, I shouldn't judge based on my personal feelings. Since we are partners, then the stronger this bastard is, the more advantageous it will be to my plan. Okay, I see. I have a plan. It's time to use our identities, Water God's apostles. Yun-Kei gazed at Yun-Shi with a serious, dangerous look, which made Yun-Shi feel creeped out. Several days later, there was a similar post in front of all Water God's temples in every city and village in this world. People crowded around the posts, looking at the silver-masked man that was painted on the posts. To most people, Water God temples had never allowed any person to post all over the world. This post was about a proposal which had been written by Yun-Kei personally, and would make history in Water God's world. Water God's Apostle's Proposal Notice. A hero-ranked Water God's apostle who is from a distant area and is recognized by the Great White Emperor's power, has tired of wandering around the world. He wants to settle down somewhere, and the great water god has accepted his request, granting him the god's blessing. If any girl wants to marry him, she can go to King's City and take part in his bride selection ceremony. In the name of the great water god, the most excellent girl will win the apostle's love. To the beautiful girls all around the world, wear your most gorgeous clothes and put on your corollas. Let this ceremony become marvelous due to your coming. The water god's apostle will follow the great water god's will and choose the most excellent bride, and accomplish the greatest cause in history. No matter where you are from, no matter what your identity and race are, all girls have the right to take part in the selection ceremony. The world is shining due to you. Beautiful girls, for becoming the most excellent bride, show your gorgeous appearance to everyone. This marvelous era is yours. The words were flourishing and agitative. Additionally, with the water god's mark and Yunqi's handsome painting, the posts caused a great disturbance across the whole world. In Yunqi's view, since Yunqi's mask could be enhanced without an upper limit, then she would help Yunqi expand his mist soul army. 107 brides. Those weren't enough. Far from enough. And to use fourth-ranked bread to tempt innocent girls was too wasteful and inefficient. Yunqi shouldn't use his bread for this. His identity, water god's apostle, could help him use this world's general trends to accomplish a miracle that no one had achieved. It was a convenience from the water god, and it was the right time to use it. Yes, Yunqi was planning to let the whole world help Yunqi's mask become stronger. For victory, she would be unscrupulous. This was Yunqi's method. Even though she didn't like Yunqi, but for victory, she used their identities as water god's apostles without hesitation to carry out the grandest plan that had ever appeared in water god's world's history. If what Yunqi had done was just one small step for man, then her plan would become a giant leap for mankind which would undoubtedly change the whole world. This was Yunqi's expansion plan. 1,000,000 brides. Chapter 200, The King's City in Water God's World, the King's City. The city's name was Celian. It was on the largest island in Water God's world, and was the center of the world's culture, economy, and faith. There was no country in Water God's world. The whole world was dominated by an alliance that was formed by the islands all over the world. Celian was the largest island in Water God's world. The whole island was the king's city in the center of the whole Water God's world. The city's population was about 1,000,000. Most residents were humans, with some aquatic races also living in the city. Of course, they all believed in the greatest god, Water God. The reason why Celian was the king's city wasn't because of its great population and booming economy. It was because the largest water god's temple was located here. In legends, when Water God first came to this world, it appeared in the sacred lands of Celian, where the largest water god's temple was. As the king's city, the greatest feature of Celian were the countless fountains all over the city. Colorful fountains, musical fountains, underground fountains, sea fountains, the whole city could be called City of Water. One stream after another, connected one fountain after another. There were over 100 temples in Celian. Every day in the temples, there would be pure girls holding old water bottles and pouring water to believers, which represented the beginning of a new day. Celian, and all living beings in Water God world, used this method to present their beliefs to the supreme water god. One mermaid after another, who were a pretty rare sight in other places, swam at ease in the streams. Occasionally, they would rest at various fountains and sing praises for Water God. Occasionally, some naughty jellyfishes would come from the sea and harass the girls that were basking in the sun on the beach, teasing these girls. Peaceful, beautiful, and sacred. These were the main themes in Celian, the Water God's world's king city. However, this peace had been disrupted by a post today. Water God's priests posted one post after another all over the temples in Celian. The ordinary residents and the aquatic races had all known that a water god's apostle was looking for brides. It's strange, why would the apostle want to get married? A young mermaid looked at the mature man in the post and asked her sister. Well, I don't know. But don't you think that it's a good opportunity? Her sister's eyes were shining like bright lights. It was an apostle. The most special being in this world and the person who was closest to the supreme God. Apostles didn't often appear in the mortal world. They were legendary big shots. Now, an apostle was looking for brides. How could she miss this opportunity? Sister. Why are you blushing? This mermaid was too young to understand her sister's nervous mood. No. I can't wait. Sister, let's go. The elder mermaid held her young sister's hand, left the fountain, and walked to the nearest temple. Aya, these mermaids are about to go crazy. I'm not surprised. After all, it's a water god's apostle. However, why would he want to get himself a wife? Hey, he looks handsome. In a nest at the bottom of the sea, non-human girls who had snake-like bodies were gathering around the notice board in front of their nest. They belonged to one of the strongest races in water god's world, sea demons. They inhabited the deep sea and most of the time, their bodies were in a half-human half-snake state. The people in water god's world called them Lamia, in reverence, which meant the sea demon from the deep sea. The strongest Lamia, the queen of Lamia race, was one of the strongest creatures in water god's world. She was also one of 3 water gods' high priests. This post was posted by her personally. No wonder that the young Lamia girls were all longing for love after reading it. My queen, do you know anything about this apostle? He looks quite young. I remember most apostles are from the fantasy turtle race, and the youngest is already 8,000 years old. The Lamia race was also a race known for their longevity. Many of them had seen the old fantasy turtle apostles. Water God didn't often declare its will to ordinary people. Most apostles that had appeared in front of the public were from the fantasy turtle race. He doesn't just look young, but is actually very young. He probably isn't 100 years old yet, the matured Lamia queen said as she licked her lips. When she had first seen the 2 apostles, she immediately realized which of them was the special one. It was all too clear, because water god hadn't even hidden its favor to that apostle. The silver mask on the apostle's face had explained everything. The mask, White Emperor, contained water god's god power. It had the highest permission amongst all masks. If she hadn't known that the great water god was, she would think that Yunshi was the water god's illegitimate child. What? He isn't even 100 years old yet and is already a hero-ranked apostle. He is awesome. Whoa. I'm 300 years old and I still don't know when I will reach the hero rank. He's special. The Lamia girls were surprised, but the lights in their eyes had become brighter. Sigh, it's too bad that humans are too afraid of us. Why is the mermaid race so popular? It's so unfair. Yes, we're beautiful too. We should meet the apostles' requirements. Do you really want to go? The Lamia queen looked at the noisy young Lamia girls meaningfully. Yes, but our races are different. Humans and Lamias can't have children. Yes, it's a pity. The Lamia girls suddenly realized this problem, as they spoke their worry to their queen. Chapter 201, Turning Point. The Lamia race and the mermaid race were both water gods' chosen races. However, due to their different appearances and living habits, people had different views of the 2 races. Mermaids were seen as one of water gods' avatars due to their perfect faces and wonderful songs. They were popular throughout the whole world. Lamias had creepy snake bodies and were several times larger than humans, therefore, they were regarded as a nightmare from the deep sea. No human had the guts to get close to them. Even though the Lamia Queen was one of the 3 water gods' high priests, she couldn't dispel the human prejudices too. Therefore, the Lamia girls just watched the fun and didn't really think that they could take part in the selection ceremony. They didn't think that they were entitled to apply for it because they couldn't have children with humans. To humans, they were absolutely different kinds of creatures. In fact, I've had a talk with the apostle. He said that he didn't mind whether his bride is human or not. Besides, he is unlike other humans because he can have children with any race. Looking at the anxious expressions on the Lamia girls' faces, the Lamia Queen smiled meaningfully and announced this startling news. What? Is it real? He can actually do this. My queen, you're not joking, are you? Whoa. He's a prefect apostle. It really was amazing news. For a long time, there was a huge misunderstanding between humans and Lamias. Almost none of them dared to believe this news, even though they had heard it from the Lamia Queen personally, who was also water god's high priestess. The Lamia race and the mermaid race both had no males in their races. Their reproductive systems were special. First, they gestated womb in their bodies, then they would find strong beings to offer them biotic genes so that they could breed strong offspring. In fact, the human race wasn't a good choice for the Lamia race and the mermaid race because most humans were very weak, so they couldn't impregnate mermaids or Lamias. Most mermaids and Lamias would look for strong sea monsters and obtain their biotic genes to gestate their offspring. In Water God's world, several special sea monsters were responsible for this task. They were nearly immortal and had obtained a few god powers from the water god so that they could help the 2 races maintain a stable population. Unfortunately, due to some unknown reason, several old sea monsters had all fallen dead asleep. For dozens of years the 2 races hadn't had any children. We can have children without help from the sail jellyfishes. The youngest Lamia girl looked surprised. She was the last one who had seen the sea monsters that were called sail jellyfishes. The mermaid race and the Lamia race had relied on the several sail jellyfishes to gestate offspring for many, many years, which was so long that they had even regarded it as a natural thing. Yes, because his body contains water god's power, so he can carry out the same duty as the sail jellyfishes. He is a unique apostle, and all of you can try to obtain his love. The Lamia Queen looked at the young Lamia girls with an expectant look. She had seen various emotions in their eyes, including pleasant surprise, itching for a try, nervousness, and uneasiness. How long, since the last time the same noise appeared amongst Lamias? The Lamia race had been completely cut off from human world for a long time. It was about time to reappear in front of humans again. This world didn't only belong to humans, but belonged to all living beings who believed in Water God. The human race were the masters of the ground. The mermaid race were the communicators between humans and the deep sea races. The Lamia race were the representatives of sea demons. Now, due to an unforeseen opportunity, the 3 forces in the Water God's world started to communicate with each other. The Water God's world had stopped changing for a long, long time. But now, it started to reform itself again. It was all due to the silver-masked young boy. Based on a human standard, he was already a mature man, but in the Lamia Queen's eyes, he was still a boy. If so, I want to have a try. Finally, a Lamia girl raised her hand. Yes, this is it. You're still young, how can you always stay alone in the dark, deep sea? Go outside, go outside. To see the vast world, to see the mountains and cities, to look for the things you are longing for. Yes, I want to have a child. Since the sail jellyfishes have fallen asleep, then I will choose the apostle. One after another, the Lamia girls bared their hearts. In fact, the Lamia girls were already bored of their days in the deep sea. Almost all of them had experienced swimming close to the coastline at night, looking at the brilliantly lit human world from a distance. However, they had no reason to and lacked the guts to swim close to the bright lit world. The Lamia race was ominous, therefore, humans couldn't live together with Lamias. The Lamia girls believed this. However, this time, the situation was different. The young, curious Lamia girls had finally found a good reason to venture into the bright human world. The Water God's notice was posted to all living beings in Water God's world, which meant that they also had the right to become the Apostles' brides, so they could find an excuse to go to Celion, the city of water. Good, good, very good. The Lamia queen smiled. This is it. No rule actually forbade the Lamia race to leave the sea, and no human dared to be hostile to the Lamia race. Otherwise, the Lamia queen wouldn't be one of the 3 high priestesses. They built an invisible wall themselves. They worried about being repelled or treated coldly by humans, so they refused to leave the nest. To them, Yunshi's bride selection ceremony was just the right excuse to let them leave the deep sea and go to the brand new human world. Therefore, as their elder, I must lead and protect these children who just stepped out of their comfort zones to accomplish their life goals. The Lamia queen thought in her heart. Thank you, Water God. This must be your great will, so that the young boy would come here and meet with us. Chapter 202, The 3 High Priestesses in Water God's World, the Celion Water God's Temple. Yunshi sat at the top of the temple tower looking at the mega city under his feet in silence. Several days ago, the whole city had been decorated with lanterns and colored hangings. The apostles' coming was much more meaningful to the city than Yunshi and Yunkei had thought. Yunshi wouldn't forget the shocked expression on the 3 high priestesses' faces when he and Yunkei had walked into the Celion Water God's temple. The Lamia queen, the queen of deep sea races. The Mermaid Queen, the matriarch of the mermaid race, whose race was taking Celion as their primary active region. The Celion Queen, the human high priestess who was theoretically the highest-ranking person. They were the 3 high priestesses who were actually dominating the sea and ground in the whole of Water God's world. The Water God's world was dominated by this alliance. With Water God's temple at its core, Celion was the center of the world. The 3 high priestesses represented the sea demon races whose habitats were in the deep sea, the amphibious races who could live both in the sea and on the ground, and the human race who were the masters of ground. They were the 3 most high beings of the whole Celion city, and even the whole of Water God's world. As a matter of course, they were all at the hero rank. According to their strength, the Lamia Queen, the Mermaid Queen, and then the Celion Queen. However, if judging them from their influence, the Celion Queen was undoubtedly the main leader. Even though they were the 3 highest-ranking priestesses in the world, they still looked shocked when they saw Yunshi, as if they had just seen the most incredible miracle in the world. Yunshi still remembered their expressions when they saw his white emperor mask. The eldest one amongst the 3 priestesses was the strongest. The Sea Demon Queen. The Lamia Queen drew herself up and coiled her tail, staring at Yunshi with her snake-like eyes, which made Yunkei feel downtrodden and even want to attack the queen. The most elegant one amongst the 3 priestesses, the Mermaid Queen, supported her harp and covered her mouth in surprise. The harp emitted a round of soft blue light one after another in the air. The last one, the titular master of all mankind, the high priestess of Celion of the Water God's temple, the Celion Queen, could barely hold on to the scepter in her hand. She shook, because the scepter in her hand was resonating with Yunshi's silver mask. 1, 2, 3. The scepter had rung 3 times, which made the Celion Queen speechless. You're watched by the god. The Lamia Queen immediately adjusted her mood and lowered her head to Yunshi. In this world, even the strongest sea monster couldn't force her to lower her prideful head, but she proactively did so in front of Yunshi. You're blessed by the god. The mermaid queen played her blue harp and sang a song. The song was the legendary mermaid singing, which mermaids used to praise the god. You're beloved by the god. The Celian queen raised the scepter and shook the silver Aeolian bells on the scepter. This scepter was granted to her by the supreme water god. It would only resonate with items of the same rank. The first resonance meant that the item contained god power. For example, Yunkei's bloody mask was such an item because it was a water god's apostle's identity certificate. The second resonance meant that the item contained the same amount of god power as the water god scepter. The Celian queen only knew of one such item in the whole world. It was inside a temple under the deep sea, and it was called Sea Demon's Mirror. Theoretically, there shouldn't be a third resonance, because it would mean that the god power in the item was much greater than the god power in the water god scepter. The Celian queen had never heard of such a thing that had once appeared in this world's history, and therefore, when she heard the third resonance, she could barely believe her ears. An artifact that is even more advanced than the water god scepter. It can't be true, she thought, till the silver-masked young man walked up to the three high priestesses. When they saw his mask, they naturally knew that this young man was unique even compared to all the apostles in this world's history. Deep, thick power of mist wrapped the white emperor mask. As water god's priestesses, they could even immediately notice the god's aura from the mask. It was an unprecedented level of charisma. For the first time in the world's history, a supreme apostle had appeared. His identity was even higher than the high priestesses, and he could even be regarded as the god speaker. They didn't need more evidence, because the silver mask had already explained everything. He was the emperor. Yun Shi and Yun Kei hadn't realized the meaning of white emperor mask to the water god's world. After water god granted Yun Shi the mask, Yun Shi was doomed to be a legend, and the water god had also told him about it. You will become the Yutaware Ramono. You will become my apostle. And the star system had also confirmed it. You will obtain the fake power of the emperor after putting on the mask. The mask's power was fake, but it was just relative to water god. After all, compared to the immortal god, the power of the emperor was just a drop in the river of time. However, to the water god's world it was absolutely real, which symbolized the supreme god's will. Chapter 203. The girls are coming, therefore, let's carry out this plan. As Yun Shi was still puzzled, Yun Kei had finished discussing the inconceivable plan with the three high priestesses. Since this is the apostle's requirement, we, the Lamia race, will support you with all our strength. The Lamia queen gazed at Yun Shi with a dangerous look, as if she was going to eat him. We, the mermaid race, will support you too, the mermaid queen answered. She gently smiled and played the blue harp. I will obey the god's will. The Celian queen shook the water god's scepter in her hand, listening the euphonious tinkle of rings. Start from here, the expansion plan of 1,000,000 brides swept through the whole water god's world like a storm. With the three high priestesses as the core, the whole water god's world had been involved in this unparalleled event. One post after another, and one priest after another announced Yun Shi's marriage event all over the world. The news had spread across the whole world at an unbelievable speed. There were about 10 million intelligent beings in water god's world. Most were humans, and the remainder were the mermaid race, the Lamia race, and other aquatic races. The whole world was focused on the Celian city now, and it had become vibrant with life due to Yun Shi's proposal plan. Every day, many aquatic races and humans were coming to the city of water, Celian, in groups. Most of them were unmarried girls. All over the world, water gods' priests were dutifully choosing the most beautiful girls in their parishes and sending them to Celian. If regarding the whole water god's world as a garden, then all the residents in the garden had gone into action for Yun Kei's plan, and this was what made Yun Shi feel distressed. I never said that I would marry so many girls, sitting on the temple spire, Yunshi murmured in a lifeless tone. He had only wanted to find all the Star Wings night girls. What went wrong that made I end up in this dilemma? Was it my fault or Yunkei's? Are you still thinking whether this is wrong? A familiar, sarcastic voice echoed beside Yunshi's ears. I never wanted to do this, Yunshi sighed. 1,000,000 brides. He couldn't even image it, not to mention to accept it. Even though these girls had responded to Water God Temple's call and come to Celian, perhaps none of them had known the truth. It's not dependent on your will. We must do it. Otherwise, you, and me, and even the whole world won't have a future. Yunkei coldly watched the girls in the busy streets. Controlling everything and increasing the odds of winning to the Water God's camp, this was her choice. Sheolongness, the Sky Sword, would be an incredibly strong enemy, and Yunshi's White Emperor mask would become the major variable that could help them defeat Sheolongness. The Dark Shadow Spider Queen's coming had greatly accelerated the speed of Sheolongness coming. Their original plan had been to find the most suitable bride for Water God as soon as possible, but now, it had become too difficult to accomplish. They had no choice but to start preparing to fight. In the face of Sheolongness, the Sky Sword, they had to do everything to enhance themselves. Fortunately, this bastard belongs to the Water God's camp. Yunkei thought. He is beloved by Water God, and he can become stronger through proposing to girls. This is really a bug-like ability. Considering Sheolongness' ability, Yunkei had to consider that Yunshi's ability was something that Water God had up its sleeve. As expected, the battle between gods was far beyond her and any mortal's imagination. Her, Yunhai, and the black-haired beauty, were just 3 chess pieces on this large chessboard named the Water God's World. The god hiding behind this world, Water God, and the upcoming slime Sky Sword, Sheolongness, were the real chess players. However, Yunkei didn't resist it. Like the sun rises in the east and sets in the west, everything in the universe had its fate. Before she could actually obtain power as a chess player, it wasn't bad to achieve victory as a chess piece. Victory means endless possibility, because the loser won't have a future. What should we do next? Yunshi counted the beautiful girls on the street under his feet. There were female pharmacists who wore exotic clothes, fishermen's maidens who wore tropical skirts and necklaces, and priestesses who wore sacerdotal robes. Apart from them, there were also mermaids and lamias who were bathing in the fountains. In the Water God's world, aquatic races and mankind were all Water God's people. Humans were afraid of the lamia race because they looked horrible, but humans didn't refuse to become integrated with the girls from other races. There were already over 100,000 unmarried girls that had arrived at Celian during these days. According to the news from the 3 high priestesses, there were still a lot of girls of different races on the road. It was calculated that the sum of girls may really be able to reach 1,000,000 eventually. What does it mean? Yunshi could barely imagine it, as he had never thought that he would propose to 1,000,000 girls. 1,000,000. What should I do? They were all Water God's believers. Responding to Water God's call, they came here and waited for their fates. None of them had expected such a strange fate was waiting for them. You have no choice and can only propose to them all. If your Mist Soul army can really reach 1,000,000, we will be able to defeat Sheolongness, the Sky Sword Slime army. Therefore, for victory, you must accomplish this mission, successfully proposing to 1,000,000 girls. Yunkei said and looked at Yunshi. Her voice still sounded calm, but her eyes had undoubtedly exposed her disdain, as if she was looking at a bug. Chapter 204, The Mysterious First One, There Are 1,000,000 Girls. How could I propose to all of them? Yunshi was going out of his mind. Yunkei's plan had almost destroyed Yunshi's outlook. Can anyone imagine it? A man would propose to 1 million unmarried girls and achieve success eventually. How can it be possible? There are 1 million girls. Even if proposing to a girl needs a minute, then repeating it 1 million times would need. No, stop calculating the number. I will go crazy. Even if this was just a dream, a trial world, Yunshi still didn't believe that he had a chance to accomplish this insane plan. Compared to this plan, the truculent green hippos and the stone soldier army were just nothing. At the least, when he had challenged the green hippos and the stone soldier army, he had had the confidence that he would be the last winner. However, this expansion plan, 1 million brides, was far beyond his imagination. Of course, it's impossible to propose to them one by one, therefore, you need to be selective, determining your focus targets. Since Yun-Kei had prepared to carry out this plan for Yun-Shi, she would naturally do her best. No matter how insane, ridiculous, or absurd this plan was, since Yun-Shi's White Emperor mask contained that power, then she must help him with all her strength. Only Yun-Shi's cheat-like Mist Soul Army could fight against Shay-Alongness, the Sky Sword Slime Army. It was right to use all their resources to obtain victory, wasn't it? Only the winner could record and rewrite the history. The focus targets. Yun-Shi sensed an unusual feeling from her words. Of course. In your Mist Soul Army, there are some special units, right? These special Mist Soul girls are the core of your Mist Soul Army, and the keys to leading your Mist Soul Army to victory. They are the hero units in your Mist Soul Army. So, if you want your Mist Soul Army to be the strongest, they are irreplaceable, Yun-Kei said with clear logic. Mist Soul Army was a fantastic army that was beyond any mortal's imagination. No word was overpraised to this matchless army. Because Yun-Shi's White Emperor mask could create such a frightening army, thereby the Water God's camp stood a chance to defeat Shay-Alongness, the Sky Sword. Since that was the case, the Mist Soul Army deserved to have the best members. If there wasn't a limiting condition, Yun-Kei had even wanted to let all the females in Water God's world join Yun-Shi's Mist Soul Army. My hero units, naturally, Hua-Yu, Xiao-Chao, Hua-Hua, and the twin witches appeared inside Yun-Shi's mind. With the Water God Temple's help, Yun-Shi had confirmed the locations of Hua-Yu and Xiao-Chao. The same as the other girls, they had also lost their memories and thought that they were natives. However, he couldn't find any trace of Hua-Hua and the twin witches, as if they had never appeared in the Water God's world. Of course, that was impossible. Yun-Shi had an ominous presentiment. They had perhaps joined the other camp. Besides, Yun-Shi hadn't found Lulu yet. He was afraid for this little girl, who was cast upon the horrible desolate island whilst looking for her father. Yes, I have made a list. Speaking of this, Yun-Kei hesitated for a while, then made her decision quickly. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. If she wanted to win, she must risk everything. She wasn't a chosen one like the man named Yun-Hai. She had to pay a real price to win. In order to survive, she had given up any impracticable dreams from a long time ago. Therefore, this is my own choice. You are really pushy, Yun-Quebec. Yun-Shi should have felt happy for having such a perfect partner, however, there was something he would never accept. For victory, I can be unscrupulous. You and I are just two waves in the river of fate, nothing more. Yun-Kei turned around and left. To survive, there is always something that people have to face, no matter whether they like it or not. Yun-Hai, we must do it. It's unavoidable to both of them. The wheel of fortune was still turning. In the middle of the night, Yun-Shi was walking on the street. Thin mist had wrapped his body and covered his mask, otherwise, he would get involved in trouble if he was recognized by others. He was going to the seashore. Yun-Kei had told him that the first girl he should propose to was waiting for him there. To be honest, Yunshi didn't know how Yun-Kei had made the ranking list and who the mysterious first girl was. But, on Yun-Kei's list, this girl was the top priority, which meant that Yun-Kei thought that the girl could be the main core of Yunshi's Mist Soul army. Who was this girl? Why did Yun-Kei have such a high opinion about her? Yunshi was curious about it. In Yunshi's mind, Yun-Kei was a serious man and would never bend his principle for selfish ends. Even frustration and crushing defeat wouldn't be able to shake his spirit and will, and he would definitely find the slimmest chance of survival in any hopeless situation. He had learned his mind's eye in such a situation. As an archer, his attack was always deadly. Both his battle experience and strong will had let Yunshi concede that he was better qualified. It wasn't a gap that could be filled within a short period. Since he was so special, then who was the girl he specially chose for Yunshi? With curiosity, Yunshi arrived at the seashore. Sitting amongst the jagged reefs, the girl was looking at the moon. Her slim figure looked lonely, and her black skin, sharp ears, and the black bandages on her body had all exposed her race and identity. Dark elf, Yunshi froze. His body couldn't help but shiver. It's her. Chapter 205, Familiar and strange that night, as if Yunshi was swimming in a tropical ocean, a sweet and hot feeling wrapped around his body. She was warm, soft and gentle. Yunshi had obtained his most amazing experience in that dream, which he hadn't learned during the summer before from the big sister. So far, Yunshi still remembered the sweetness of the dark elf's tongue and the marvelous, wonderful time they had spent together. In her deep pupils was his wildest desire that was hiding inside his heart, and his emotional expression relaxed after realizing this. Pain and sadness. Yunshi could sense a slight feeling of strangeness from her expression, as if she was suffering a great pain. Her black hair was smooth, and her beauty was breathtaking, but her slim body shivered, and her groans sounded like she was bearing something. During that night, he kissed her lips under the moonlight, and bit her neck with soft love. She looked puzzled in his arms, and she always struggled to be free, but his hands tightly grasped her on his knees, and he kissed her in various ways. His kiss was like the flowers that were falling, continuously dropping on her ears, cheeks, eyes, brows. She sighed and groaned, hesitating whether she should resist this comfortable experience, till he raised her chin and frantically sucked her tongue. She finally opened her eyes wide in fear. Yunshi had firmly remembered all her attractive appearances. Her red lips were cold and soft at first, but soon afterwards, they became hot and smooth from his kissing. He could remember all the details, but did it really happen? Or was it just his imagination? Yunshi couldn't figure out which part was his dream and which part was the reality. However, it was undoubtedly an unforgettable night, and he had decided to bury it in the deepest levels of his heart and keep it unseen. He hadn't expected this. Why is she here? Who is she? Where is she from? And why would she do it with him that night? Yunshi had too many questions, but when he tried to open his mouth, he found himself speechless, because he knew too little about her, and he didn't even know whether it was just a dream. Was it really just a dream? Yunshi had never confirmed his feelings about it, till now, when he saw her face again. Making sure that she was as real as all living beings in the universe, finally, he understood that something had really happened between him and the dark elf girl that night. Remembering the passionate scenes, Yunshi's face turned red and hot. He could barely look at the dark elf girl, who was sitting on the reef and watching the tidewater washing across her slender feet. Basking in the moonlight, somehow, she looked heartbreakingly lonely. The vast sea and the silver moon formed a romantic background, but she was still alone, as if she had been abandoned by the whole world. I want to reach for her and ask her what happened that night. Yunshi had an unprecedented, strong impulse in his heart. Are you there? The dark elf girl heard Yunshi's footsteps. She turned around and rose to her feet. Her round toes were spreading a special young girl's aura. Her skin wasn't the healthy tan but night-like black, but her eyes looked so lonely. No, perhaps it was because she had been used to being lonely, so he couldn't find it in her pupils. The assassins from the darkness were doomed to bear loneliness and act alone. Let me introduce myself to you. My name is Black Moon, a qualified Dark Elf commander and logistic officer. I have the experience to handle troops. I think I'm eligible to be your Mist Soul Army's commander, the Dark Elf said, espousing all her advantages. Yunhai's Mist Soul Army was the biggest trump card they had. She couldn't just sit quietly and look at Yunshi wasting this ability. Therefore, she must control his army, even though she hated to use this method. But, why is Yunhai's expression so strange? He looks excited, confused and nervous, as if this isn't our first meeting. It's impossible, because I'm the Black Obsidian, the Lonely Assassin, the 10 Leaves Alliance's elite and a rare dark elf. He shouldn't have seen my real self before. She was from the darkness and would return to the darkness. Because of the justice she wanted to protect, she never had a long relationship with anyone. Black Moon was just a fake name, but like the name Yunkei, it also contained a special, old meaning. In the legend, the Black Moon Prince was the child of the Dark God, just like Yunhai, who was beloved by the Water God. Black Moon, it's a good name. Yunshi took a deep breath. He adjusted his mood and asked the Dark Elf girl, will you become my bride? Black Moon gazed at Yunshi. Her answer would determine the world's fate. She knew that he wasn't a reliable man. He had the god's favor but didn't understand its meaning. He was beloved by the world and the god. He was the child of God, shining like the sun. As for her, she had to hide in the darkness and couldn't even have her own name. She had only her code name Black Obsidian and the borrowed name Yunkei, and even now, she still had to lie and use a new fake name. But, it doesn't matter. She had known it since the day of her birth. She was always cursed by others, and lived in a world that was full of prejudice and discrimination. She watched the shining world in hell, and protected the justice in her heart there. Only this principle was what she wouldn't violate or doubt. Even fighting till the last second, she wouldn't put down the sword in her hand. For victory, she would be daring and unscrupulous. This was the path she had chosen, the abandoned one's path of justice. Chapter 206, Will you accept me? Yes, I have chosen you. Come and propose to me. I will become the most excellent Mist Soul in your army. Yes, this was Black Obsidian, and Yunkei's choice. She, for the fate she was carrying, she had to become strong at all costs. She wouldn't care about other people's opinions, and wouldn't give up on a glimmer of hope. She wasn't a chosen one like Yunhai, so she must do her best to enhance herself. She cherished the opportunity the Water God had given her, and she wouldn't allow her personal feelings to affect her judgment. She didn't mind whether Yunhai was a salacious scum or not, because she knew that he was this world's only hope. Well, can we? Yunshi said haltingly, looking at the dark elf girl. She was different than Lulu, Ling Ling and Mei Lan. Yunshi didn't know why she was also involved in this world. Perhaps she was also one of the passengers on the floating ship, White Lotus, but proposing to her was totally different to proposing to the Starwings Night Girls. Why are you asking? Don't you like underage girls? Black Obsidian looked at Yunshi in surprise. She had confidence in her appearance. Dark Elf race was a cursed race, but after losing their divine spirits, they had also obtained a dark-type physique and charming glamour to compensate. According to what she had known about this man, he should feel weak to any irresistible and charmingly beautiful girls. No. That's not true. Yunshi shook his head like crazy. He didn't know the reason, but he wanted to show his most prominent side to her. The expansion plan of 1,000,000 brides and his mist soul army were just the results of the stars guiding. They weren't his true desires. One bride was already enough. 1,000,000 brides was such a crazy thing that it shouldn't even appear in novels. What a terrible world this world is. You are special. You're different than other girls. Yunshi tried to stop his heart from pounding. Why? They just stayed together, and he himself had become so strange. Was it because they had the experience of skin to skin? Or it was due to other reasons? She hadn't recognized Yunshi. After all, after wearing the water god's mask, even Yunshi himself couldn't recognize who this mature young man was. Special, why am I special? Black Obsidian wondered. This man should think that this was their first meeting. She had took off her mask and withdrew her disguise, to appear in front of him using her true identity, a dark elf, because she thought that he knew nothing about her. Then why weren't his eyes saying that? They couldn't have any contact before. In fact, Yunshi's lips were dry and his mouth was parched. He tried, but couldn't speak a word in front of her. Raise your head. You're this world's hope, so you must believe in yourself. I come here because I believe in you, do you understand? Black Obsidian felt uncomfortable, but still comforted Yunshi. Her plan couldn't fail. It was a must-be to be the commander of Yunshi's Mist Soul Army. To this end, she wouldn't allow any error. You believe in me? Yunshi looked at the dark elf girl. He had touched every place of her skin, but she still didn't know that he was he. Yes, I believe in you. I believe that you can change this world. This wasn't a lie but the truth. Black Obsidian was sure that Yunshi was their only trump card to fight against Shaolongness, the Sky Sword. When the three high priestesses first saw them, their expression had explained everything. You're watched by the god. You're blessed by the god. You're beloved by the god. She didn't need more evidence and had confirmed that Yunshi was the chosen one of the water god's world. She must support him, becoming his power, then obtain his power to grab the last victory. Everything would be worthy, as long as she could win. To accomplish this, she could even sacrifice herself. Flamboyant slogans were meaningless, because she needed real power. Since she couldn't obtain Yunshi's White Emperor mask, because it was Water God's charisma, at the least, she would try to secure control of the Mist Soul Army. Otherwise, her expansion plan of 1,000,000 brides would mean nothing. I will change the world. Do I have the power? Yunshi stretched out his fingers and stroked the silver mask on his face. It was a fake power of the Emperor to the god, but to this world, it was the supreme imperial crown. So, I have to carry this fate on my back after putting on the White Emperor mask. Yes, you're the chosen one, you're the beloved one. For the world, I swear to fight for you. So, propose to me. Let me become your bride. Black Obsidian bared her feet and gazed at Yunshi with a serious look. If this is your hope, if this is what you want, then. I want you to be my bride. Yunshi said with his voice trembling. It's different, it's totally different, this proposal. I should say it to my first love, I should say it to Hua. Why did I say it so unthinkingly to her? Yunshi's heart beat nervously. He waited for her answer, as if he was really proposing to his most beloved girl. God, is this world abnormal or have I gone mad? The great stars, why did you create this plan, to love, Starchild? I'm willing to be your bride. I'm willing to become the commander of your Mist Soul Army. Black Obsidian let out a sigh of relief. Finally, I did it. It doesn't matter. It isn't dirty. It's for victory, I have to do it. Even though she had had an extremely bad impression of this man. Chapter 207, The Unsuccessful Proposal. Under the silver moonlight, the dark elf girl gazed at Yunshi with a firm look, waiting for his answer. This was just one small step for this world, but was a giant leap for herself. She wouldn't allow any failure. At all costs, she must get engaged with this shameless, salacious bastard and obtain that position, the highest commander of the Mist Soul Army. Silence. A stillness as if death hung over their heads. Yunshi looked at himself first, then looked at the dark elf girl in confusion. It seems that we failed. Hesitating for a while, Yunshi said aloud the truth. He had proposed to the dark elf and she had agreed to his proposal, but the marriage contract still hadn't been established. In the list of the side quest for To Love, Starchild, there wasn't the 108th bride. Yunshi didn't know how to describe his mood, because he knew the reason why. She wasn't really willing to become his bride, just like the mysterious black-haired woman, the dark shadow spider queen. Failed. How can it be true? Shouldn't you feel weak to any irresistible and charmingly beautiful girls? Black Obsidian sputtered. Her plan all depended on whether she could control the Mist Soul Army. If she couldn't accomplish this step, then this world wouldn't have a future. Why? This guy has had so many brides, why would he fail on such a simple thing? Am I not good enough? Speaking of glamour, the dark elf girl had confidence in herself. It's not my problem. I am being forthright with you. Yunshi quickly shook his head. He made up his mind to propose to the dark elf girl. This was his most sincere proposal even amongst all his 108 times of proposal. If she was one of the Starwing's night girls, he wouldn't hesitate such a long time. To him, this dark elf girl, Black Moon, was special. He wouldn't be insincere, therefore, it wasn't his problem, but it's not your problem. Indeed, your character. After Black Obsidian cooled off, she had to admit that the Yunhai she knew wouldn't resist her charm. So, it's my problem. After making a painstaking analysis, Black Obsidian had finally realized that she herself was the biggest problem. The common point of your 108 times of proposal is, Black Obsidian gazed at Yunshi with an unbelieving look. How can it be true? The 107 girls, they were all willing to marry this shameless bastard. Weren't they just influenced by his identity of Water God's apostle, so they couldn't refuse him? How could they be so stupid? How could they make such a big mistake? Yes, they did so voluntarily. None of them had refused my proposal. If they didn't really want to marry me, then my proposal would not succeed, and they wouldn't become the members of my Mist Soul Army. They must accept me from the bottom of their hearts, Yunshi said seriously, telling her the truth. The side quest for To Love, Starchild couldn't be simply accomplished by agreeing to his proposal. If the girls were being forced, the marriage contract would be invalid. He had never forced any girl to marry him. They were all volunteering. Wait, let me sort out my feelings. Black Obsidian's mind was in a mess now. The things that were happening was already beyond her understanding. One man proposed to 107 girls and achieved success, except the dark shadow spider queen. All the girls were volunteering to be his bride. Could such a thing be allowed? Could such a thing really happen? What's wrong with this world? Has it been twisted? If so, it meant that if she wanted to be the Mist Soul Army's commander, she must voluntarily marry this bastard too. Don't push yourself. It's okay. Yunshi sighed. He had prepared to face this failure. The dark elf girl, Black Moon, wasn't a member of his Starwing's Night nor a native girl who admired the Water God's apostles. She was a beautiful dark elf. How could she agree to a strange man's proposal when they just met for the first time? Yesterday, they didn't know each other. If Yun-Kei didn't bring her into contact with Yun-Shi, they wouldn't have met each other this night. Let this night become a sweet dream. Since he could meet the girl on the romantic seashore, Yun-Shi had felt fully satisfied. Why, how can it be? I won't give up. Black Obsidian ground her teeth and pondered the conditions of success of Yun-Shi's proposal. It isn't his problem, the problem is that I must want to marry him from the bottom of my heart. Can I do it? It was impossible. She hadn't had any idea on how to have a love affair with anyone. Her fate and justice had determined that she must walk a lonely road. Love was a luxury that she should never have. But now, if she wanted to become the Mist Soul Army's commander and obtain the power to change this world, she must love this man and marry him willingly. In normal circumstances, it's impossible. Black Obsidian gasped and thought deeply. I won't give up till the last second. Thinking, and keep thinking. Black Obsidian, you can't be beaten down so easily. For victory, you must find a method to accept this man's proposal willingly. If I can't accept him when I'm under normal circumstances, then, a pinpoint of light suddenly flashed through Black Obsidian's mind, like a lantern in the night. Right. What if I'm in an abnormal situation? What if I can't control myself and is in a confused state of mind? She remembered that night, which she preferred to be buried in the deepest side of her heart and keep it unseen. Chapter 208, Black Obsidian's Choice. Yun-Shi looked at the dark elf with curiosity. Even now, after his first proposal failed, he still didn't understand what she was thinking. The encounter with her, the visions of her, and the hot, dreamy night with her, they were all too vague and visional. If Yun-Shi hadn't met her again this night, he would think that that night was just a wonderful and fantastic illusion, and that he failed to distinguish the boundary between the real world and the dream. Till now, then she appeared in front of him and summoned that memory again. He and she had spent such a night. He could vividly remember the soft touch of her skin, and... No, I shouldn't keep remembering this. I can't tell her the truth. She doesn't know that this silver-masked man in front of her is him. Let's go. I think I know a place that can help us solve this problem. Black Obsidian showed him a firm look, as if she had decided to dive into boiling water and walk on fire. Can we really be together? Yun-Shi looked at the dark elf's slim body, wondering if he was still in a dream. They were so close, yet so distant. He couldn't feel their hearts getting any closer. She was so beautiful, and so lonely, like a fairy who had become accustomed to loneliness. This is necessary, because it's the only solution. Black Obsidian held Yun-Shi's hand and frowned. She had never expected to get into that uncontrollable state again, but she didn't have choice. Her hand is small. Holding the dark elf's hand and feeling that touch, Yun-Shi hoped that this moment would be eternal. Yes, this is that touch. The things that happened that night wasn't a dream. It was a real memory. The smooth, soft touch of her skin, it can't be wrong. Walking on Celian's misty street, Yun-Shi had butterflies in his stomach. Even though he had covered his true appearance with mist, he still felt that the people around them were looking at him and the dark elf with curiosity, as if they were some rare creatures. Indeed, Black Obsidian had special black skin. To the water god's world, she was undoubtedly a very rare creature. What is her race? She is too tanned. No, people can't have that skin by getting a tan. Her skin is charming and beautiful. Is she a girl taking part in the apostles' marriage ceremony? The people on the street were scattered, but they all looked at Yun-Shi and Black Obsidian, and put most attentions to the dark elf girl. Here it is. Black Obsidian ignored the people around them and arrived at the place with Yun-Shi, a place that good kids can't go to. A tavern. Deep in the night, the tavern was still open. Maybe it was already about closing time. There was only the shopkeeper, an old man, sitting in the tavern. "I will book the whole tavern. Take out the best wines and you can leave." Black Obsidian's voice sounded irresistible. "Okay, you two customers, enjoy yourselves." The old shopkeeper looked at the beautiful dark elf, then looked at Yunshi's nervous face, showing an explicit smile on his face. "Paw!" With a snap, Black Obsidian had opened the bottle cap. It was a bottle of tequila that the shopkeeper purposely chose for them. Then, she firmly stared at the fiery tequila. She didn't carry a golden orchid with her, she had to hypnotize herself through quantity. As an elite assassin, she had never been drunk, so she didn't know how much she could drink. As a qualified assassin, she wouldn't drink any alcohol and would put all her heart into the mission during the period. In the past, she had once teamed up with a drunkard. As a matter of course, the drunkard caused a delay in the mission because he had drunk too much, and died under siege. After that, Black Obsidian was always on guard against alcohol. Even though she always carried the best winemaking material, Golden Orchid with her, she had never tried to drink any alcohol. She had indeed used the Golden Orchid when she was grievously wounded, but it was just a forced choice. She had no Golden Orchid now, so she had to drink to hypnotize herself. She was a person who liked everything to go according to plan and she hated to meet any accidents. So now, she had to commit a crime on herself. Under normal circumstances, she couldn't force herself to accept Yunhai's proposal. Therefore, for victory and for hope, she had to be abnormal. Yunshi looked around the room uncomfortably. Deep in the night, in a closed room, a man and a woman and wine. Whatever Yunshi thought, he was in a very dangerous situation. For justice. Black Obsidian ground her teeth. She picked up the bottle and poured the liquid into her mouth. "Wait, that's tequila." Yunshi was flabbergasted after realizing the words on the bottle. Tequila wine was a fiery spirit made by the juice of tequila. It looked transparent but had a high alcohol content. Ordinary people would be drunk after a few sips. Naturally, no one wouldn't drink it in this way except newbies. "What are you saying?" Black Obsidian's eyes looked vacant. She wasn't completely drunk, but her dewy eyes had made Yunshi's heart beat faster. "Let me drink with you," Yunshi sighed. For the first time after arriving at the water god's world, he had such a fantastic feeling. As a baker, he wouldn't choose strong spirits like tequila. Instead, he picked up a bottle of red wine and sipped it. In the dim tavern, Black Obsidian had drunk 3 bottles of tequila. Her eyes had half closed. Hiccup. Why? Why is this world so unfair? The situation was going the way Black Obsidian had expected. Normally, she wouldn't say these words, but now, she was showing her deepest feelings to Yunshi. Her shy and cute appearance combined to make a fatal attraction to Yunshi. Chapter 209, The Birth of the King. She felt as if she had returned to her childhood. Only corpses were piled up on the inescapable battlefield. There was no justice in this land. She had to struggle for survival and had no time to think about anything apart from this. Beside her ears, she could still hear the evil gods roaring. It was extremely ruthless, mocking the whole downtrodden dark elf race. The chosen people of hell, fear, caves and traps will accompany you all your lives. The people in the soil, wake up and sign the contract with death. Release the seal. Start singing and laughing. Offer your lives to me. Come to the grand banquet I am holding. The evil god's game was continuing. The despair was spreading. Then, a red arrow flew to the evil god from the sky. It broke and shattered everything, it burned the earth and ignited the sky. Ah, it's her. She is the justice I've been waiting for. The flames from the heroine's arrow burned all the evils into ashes. She sacrificed herself and obtained the victory at last. Black Obsidian hated herself, because she was too weak at that time. She could do nothing but watch the events unfold. For that moment she had understood that for justice, power was necessary, and for victory, one must pay a price. The so-called heroes were the people who could sacrifice themselves for their justice. Hence, she wanted to be such a hero. She wanted to protect her justice. For this, she could be unscrupulous, as long as it was necessary. She wanted to win. She wanted to obtain the victory more than anyone, because only the victor had a future. You are really a bastard. Black Obsidian said, drunk. She shook the bottle in her hand and stared at Yun-Shi with her bleary-eyed eyes. What's in your brains that would make you accept 107 brides? It's so abnormal, and the world is abnormal too. Don't you feel strange? Yun-Shi looked at the dark elf in embarrassment. Indeed. It is abnormal, but it is the will of the great stars. It seems that the great stars has a different understanding about love than me. You're drunk, Black Moon. Yun-Shi stretched out his hand and touched the dark elf's hot forehead. How many bottles of tequila had she drunk? A bottle of tequila could knock out a hulking hunk, and she had lined up a row of empty bottles in front of her. Not enough. Black Obsidian stood up with a kind of stagger, then opened another bottle of tequila. Her mind hadn't been completely messed up yet. She still knew what she was saying. If she couldn't make herself lose her sanity, it wouldn't be possible to accept this man's proposal. Goo! As if she had given up on herself, Black Obsidian poured the liquid in the bottle into her mouth again. G.A. As if the bottom line had finally been broken up, Black Obsidian felt dizzy, as if the world was twisting and rotating in her eyes. She seemed pretty well lubricated. Yun-Shi looked at the dark elf with a bitter smile. I want to dance. I want to become the most beautiful, unique princess. Suddenly, Black Obsidian's eyes became soft and gentle. Throughout the chaos deep in her mind, she became a little girl again, without knowing anything about slaughter and war. Anyone could have such a dream. In this particular dream, the world was sunny and happy. As a bloody assassin living in the darkness, she had read a tale and had a fairy tale dream. In the dream and her fairy tale, the princess with glass slippers was dancing with the prince in a magnificent hall. However, she refused to accept the absurd end of the fairy tale, and only felt envious of the happy time the prince and the princess were dancing together. Even in the fairy tale, and in her dream, she didn't have the extravagant hopes to have a happy end. So, she only wanted to dance. Giving up everything and putting on the magical glass slippers and the gorgeous princess dress, she wanted to dance with her prince. Come here, come dance with me. Being immersed in her fantastic dream, Black Obsidian stretched out her hand to Yun-Shi. As you wish, the most beautiful princess in the world. Yun-Shi was also moved. Subconsciously, he held Black Moon's hand. There was no music, but there was a fantastic rhythm echoing between them. No. I'm not the princess. If I can, I prefer to become a prince to save the world. Black Obsidian confided. Even in the dream, she had never hoped to be saved. She knew the ruthlessness of this reality, so she wouldn't rely on anyone. Therefore, she wouldn't be in love, and wouldn't become anyone's plaything. She refused to become the best princess in the universe. Yeah. If it's what you want, you can be the prince. Yun-Shi could feel that the barrier between them was melting like ice. She was shining at this moment and was very much brighter than anyone else. She was like a perfect gem that was born out of the darkness, dazzling and sparkling. No matter how she thought about herself, a prince or a princess, her charm had made Yunshi's heart beat faster. Under the dim light, her lips looked sweet and irresistible, just like the scent Yunshi remembered that night. Therefore, you play the princess. I won't accept to be proposed as a princess, but, if you are the princess and I'm the prince, it's okay. Being drunk in her dream, a genius idea suddenly popped out from Black Obsidian's mind. Yes, the solution is right here. Oh, I'm really a genius. Since I don't want to be the princess, then I will become the prince. As you wish. Yunshi looked at Black Moon gently. He didn't want to wake her up from her sweet fantasy. If you like, then I, the princess, will propose to the great Prince Black Moon. Yes, I'm not the princess. I want to be the king, to conquer all and dominate all, even if my crown will be stained with sin. All mankind, show your loyalty to your king. Black Obsidian raised her right hand, then, a transparent sword appeared in her palm. The sword was forged with her justice, her victory, and her belief. It was a sword of justice and sin. She named it Black Moon. It was her lifetime of sin and her glorious crown. It was either a sword or an archer. It was her special artifact. Yes, I present my loyalty to my king. Yunshi looked at Black Obsidian with his bleary-eyed eyes, then, he gently covered her mouth with his kiss. Chapter 210, The 108th Bride. The moment Yunshi kissed Black Moon's soft lips, the star system in his mind erupted with brilliant lights again. His 108th bride was different from the first 107 brides, because she had become a strong hero-ranked woman. No, it wasn't the hero-ranked field power that her water god's mask had granted her. She was already a real hero. Especially after confirming her belief and persistence. After walking across endless battlefields, and being stained with blood, for the justice in her heart. Black Obsidian finally achieved her dream. Become a hero. She had finally surpassed the limit of her flesh and blood. Stepping on the road leading to immortality. Black Obsidian wouldn't give up hope until the very last moment, and would always do her best to find the slimmest chance of survival from countless dead ends. Black Obsidian was such a hero. Even though she had been drunk, she still didn't dream to be a princess. Compared to being a princess to be saved, she preferred to be the prince to save everyone else. Yunshi respected and responded to her hopes. He proposed to her, not as a prince but as a princess. Yunshi gently kissed her, like a dragonfly skimming the surface of the water. His kiss was continuous and soft, arousing the very deepest memory in Black Obsidian's heart. She had always attempted to forget that memory, but her body had remembered it firmly. Gradually, she relaxed and opened her mouth, relinquishing to Yunshi's probing tongue. His tongue explored her small mouth and finally found her tongue in this lubricious world. Then, they forgot everything and drunkenly played with each other's tongue. This sweet, soft feeling was so comfortable, it was as if their bodies were melting. Puff! After this fairly intense kiss, Black Moon took a deep breath and looked at Yunshi with her drunken eyes. My princess, Black Moon said. If that is your wish, my prince, breathed Yunshi. Their genders and characters seemed to be exchanged at this moment, but they were both inebriated, so they didn't think that it was so strange. This was the prince and the princess's dance party. Holding each other's hands, they had forgotten everything. More. I need more. Black Moon's whisper was sweet and seductive. As you wish. Yunshi lowered his head and kissed her again. This was a sweet and soft kiss, and it would be a very, very long night. The young girl had taken off her shell and exposed her most supple part, becoming a girl who dreamed to be a prince. And the young boy had also responded to her as the princess, wisely offering her a sweet dream as the prince. Just like the fountains all over the city, this night was filled with bubbling happiness. Yunshi could feel the acrid taste of tequila in his mouth. It seemed like Black Moon was pouring the tequila into his mouth with her mouth. Just before Yunshi fell into a deep sleep due to drunkenness, he vaguely heard a familiar spell. Trace, on. Ow! Yunshi, feeling that his head was swollen and so painful that he couldn't even maintain the water mist field around him. Are you awake? Congratulations, you have obtained the strongest bride. Yunkei's voice suddenly reverberated inside of Yunshi's ears. Yunshi wasn't sure about if it was an illusion, but Yunkei's voice sounded much colder today, as if he was reluctantly talking to a filthy thing. Aren't you the person who introduced her to me? Yunshi shook his head carefully and tried to remember what happened last night. Black Moon's passion still remained between his lips. He still remembered her cold mouth. He would never feel tired if he were to repeat the process of making it hot again. But what had happened next? Yunshi could vaguely remember that he held her in his arms, then that strange feeling appeared again. He failed to confirm if it was a dream or reality. Did we cross that last boundary, or was it just another illusion? Yunshi didn't know, but his body felt very comfortable, as if he just tasted the most wonderful fruit last night. Yes. I let her walk into your tiger-like mouth and become your victim, Yunkei said reluctantly, as if he were punishing himself. Even if it was for victory, that price was too high. This guy didn't warn me that his brides must be willing to marry him. If I had known that earlier, I would have spent more time working out a plan, but the result probably wouldn't change. Yunkei sighed. Yunhai was the sole owner of the White Emperor mask, and so, the only one who had the potential to defeat Shay Alongness, the Sky Sword. As long as this fact didn't change, she had to sacrifice herself, no matter how unreasonable the whole event was. Last night, she made herself drunk, so that she could deceive herself into accomplishing that impossible quest. Even now, she had no interest in remembering what had happened last night, and what despicable method that bastard had used to deceive her into accepting his proposal. She had buried this memory in her deep subconsciousness. She was drunk at that time, so she wasn't herself. She was just an innocent little girl who was drunk and cheated last night. She couldn't accept it, even after she found that last night, she had entered the 4th rank without any warning. It should have been a memorable time in her life, but due to the things that happened last night, it had become an indelible blot staining her life. Therefore, she hated this man all the more. No one could be more contemptible than this man in this world. Chapter 211, Her Odor. Why? How could this man propose to 108 girls without hesitation? He is just a bastard who luckily obtained the water god's favor. Apart from this, he is just a lazy idiot. Even though his power could change the entire world, he still doesn't know to use it. If I had his power, I would have already. Yunkei shook her head. She didn't want to waste her time on thinking about the things that wouldn't happen. She was already an adult now. She had known the brutality of this existence. She knew the eternal rule in the universe of no pain, no gain. Not everyone had the good fortune to be loved by a god. Even the infinite love from millions of people, it wouldn't be more than the love you have granted to him. You have the whole world, but you only love this boy. Even though the world would end in misfortune, you would only offer the boy honor and hope, Yunkei chanted. It was the dialogue from a famous opera in Western God's domain, but it was also fit for their current situation. She knows just how wide the gap between Yunhai and her really was. Therefore, sacrifice is necessary. No matter what shameful thing she had done last night, she had achieved her final goal in the end. Even though she couldn't remember the whole event. She still washed her mouth and body immediately after she opened her eyes this morning. What had she seen and what had she believed? What made her agree to this bastard's proposal? Submersing in an undue sense of guiltiness, Yun-Kei blamed herself. Why would I agree to this man's prerequisite, and what had he done to me? She thought with a shudder. Nothing in the world could make her feel more thrilled, unless it was the thing she had never seen before. She felt nervous and anxious, because she found that there was an unknown self lurking in her body. That self must be a slutty girl who was always immersed in desire and happiness, otherwise, she didn't think that she would agree to that bastard's proposal due to love. I'm sorry, I was too rude to that girl last night, said Yun-Shi. Unlike Yun-Kei, who had subconsciously forgotten the things that had happened last night, Yun-Shi could remember all the details that was apart from the dreamy feeling. To Yun-Kei, it was a painful and disturbing night, which was much worse than the experience in the valley. At the least, she had no choice in the valley. But this time, she was willing to let down her defenses and deceive herself, and did the things she would never want to remember. To Yun-Shi, it was a fantastic, stimulating night. The mysterious, beautiful black moon gave herself to him after getting drunk, exposing her innocent and supple side in front of him. Her dream was different from all the girls he had seen. Even Yun-Shi's childhood sweetheart, Hua, didn't have such a dream. This girl was strong and independent, because she did not and would not ever rely on anyone. Compared to being the princess to be saved, she preferred to be the prince to save the princess. No matter where she was from or what race she was, since she had such a belief, she would undoubtedly have a free, wind-blown life. The black artifact Yun-Shi had seen last night was the crystallization of her belief and the assurance of her life. Black Moon is a good girl. Yun-Shi didn't feel any regret proposing to her, because she was really mysterious, beautiful, and charming. Even compared to Hua, Mailiai, Yili and Elphilis, her mysterious charm was still unique. Thank you, Yin Quebec. Your information was right. She is entitled to be my Mist Soul Army's commander. Can I see her again? Yun-Shi looked at Yun-Kei with expectation. Waiting for Yun-Kei's answer, Yun-Shi couldn't stop his heart from beating faster. No, you won't ever see her again. Never. Yun-Kei said decisively. What a bad joke. I have paid so much, and you still want more. As expected, you are just a scumbag. If it wasn't for the water god's quest and this world's future, I would never stay beside such a man. Why him? Why did you choose him? The great water god, you must be mistaken or something. Oh. I see, Yun-Shi sighed. He had expected it. The encounter with her was so abrupt, as if the threads of their fates just accidentally crossed together. Before last night, he had never expected that he would meet her again, especially in the water god's world, and sign the special contract with her. But, as long as we are still alive, someday we will meet again, isn't that right? Yun-Shi smiled. He had firmly remembered Black Moon's odor and appearance in his heart. If they encountered each other again, he wouldn't miss her. No, I don't think so. You just bring disaster to her, Yun-Kei retorted. She smashed Yun-Shi's dream without mercy. You won't meet her again. After I accomplish the water god's quest, I will stay away from you as far away as east is from the west. Every second I stay beside you is just a kind of torture. You are my last choice for a mate in the universe to me. Did you wear perfume? Yun-Shi sniffed. He smelled a strange fragrance from Yun-Kei's body. It's not perfume. No. Yun-Kei spluttered. As expected, I hate this man. I hate him even more than Shay Alongness, the Sky Sword. Chapter 212, The Water Mist Field is Expanding. You bastard, go on out and deceive the other innocent girls of this world. Yun-Kei said in anger. As Yun-Shi looked at him in confusion, he kicked open the wooden door and ran away. That bastard! I have washed myself 3 times and I can still smell his odor on my body. Disgusting. Yun-kei decided to wash herself 10 more times today to wash off his damn odor. She would never forget this disgrace. Why was he so angry? He was the person who introduced Black Moon to me. Yun-shi wondered. Looking in the direction where Yun-kei disappeared, he realized that Yun-kei was really upset at seeing him today. Maybe Yun-kei is too upright and honest. Yun-shi thought. Since Yun-kei didn't know of my strange side quest for, to love, Starchild, it's excusable for Yun-kei to think that Yun-hai was a scumbag. In fact, Yun-shi also thought that he shouldn't propose to so many girls. It really sucks. But there was no way that the stars would let him stop. This was the only way the stars had pointed out for him to save this world. Browsing the star system in his mind, Yun-shi sighed again. There were 2 main quests. One was to help the water god and the other was to help the sky sword. Because he had been chosen to be the water god's apostle, the quest of becoming the sky sword subordinate had turned gray. Optional side quest 1, Girl fights evil dragon. A brave girl is looking for an evil dragon. You can choose this side mission after you join human camp. Because Yun-shi had joined the water god's camp, this side quest had become unselectable. However, Yun-shi knew that it hinted that Hua Hua and the twin witches were fighting against an evil dragon somewhere. Optional side quest 2, The Apostle's Call. A great apostle has reached this world. Swear your loyalty to her and become a dragon god subordinate. You can choose this side quest after you join Water God's camp. This side quest was still vague, because Yun-shi hadn't known who the apostle was. Optional side quest 3, The Truth of the Mist. The people on the island are living in a world that is surrounded by endless mist. Go find the secret and expose the truth. The current situation of this side quest is, you have finished the first phase of the side quest 3 and have obtained the White Emperor Mask's power. Go inside the mist and find the strongest monster, Mist Demon. To Yun-shi, the side quest 3 was most likely to be achieved in a very short time. Optional side quest 4, To Love, Starchild. Life is too short, just enjoy it. Propose to as many girls as possible. After obtaining their marriage contracts, you can have the girl's power. You are never alone. It seemed to be a quest that was impossible to be achieved, but Yun-shi had made great progress on this. Because it didn't limit the number of Yun-shi's brides, so Yun-kei could help Yun-shi make the expansion plan of 1,000,000 brides work. Secret quest, this will be available after you have finished 3 side quests. It seemed that this quest was lacking information, but, if Yun-shi had had a guess, it was very likely that this quest was about Sheolongness, the sky sword. Reading the quests again, I suddenly find that they are really difficult. Yun-shi had a feeling that he had just taken the first step in a long march, and the first step was accomplished completely due to his 108 brides. Let me test how strong I am now. Yun-shi took a deep breath as the water mist spread around him. Black Moon was the first hero-ranked bride in his Mist Soul army, and the power from her had surpassed all the other 107 brides combined. Naturally, she was the most important one as the core of his Mist Soul army. For the first time, Yun-shi obtained tremendous power from a hero-ranked person. His powers were bolstered. The first was his visual field. In the past, he could vaguely see the things within the range of 10 kilometers with the help of his water mist field. And now, he just stood on the roof and could see the bricks 10 kilometers away with his naked eyes. Is this the so-called clairvoyance? Looking around, Yun-shi's pupils contracted. Instantly, he had firmly remembered the city's terrain in his brain. He had a photographic memory now. It wasn't his talent, but a natural ability he had obtained after his mind had been strengthened countless times. It was an ability that was close to the limit of mortals, the ability only the best archers could have. Not only that, but his breathing and heartbeat had been adjusted spontaneously also. It wasn't a secret breathing method like what he had learned from Hua, but a talent learned from countless battles, which had become a natural state of his body. Fog up. Yunshi raised his right hand. Under his control, the water mist sublimated and arose from the fountains and streams and covered the whole city. Instantly, Celian has become a city of mist. Some girls of the aquatic races had risen up and bathed in the fountains and streams. Now they cheered with happiness. Yunshi's water mist field contained a trace of the water god's power, which was very good for these, the water god's people's bodies. No wonder that they had an extremely happy look on their faces. 10 kilometers, 20 kilometers, finally, Yunshi's water mist field had covered the area in the range of 50 kilometers, covering half of the city inside it. 5 times larger than before. Yunshi mumbled. No wonder Yun-Kei recommended Black Moon to him. She was surely the strongest one amongst all the girls in his Mist Soul army. Yunshi thought, and in that very moment, Black Moon's Mist Soul had appeared beside him. She was confident and strong, mysterious and beautiful. After condensing from the mist, she held the black sword in her hand, standing beside Yunshi like a prince. Chapter 213, 3 targets. We meet again, looking at the girl in front of him. Although Yunshi knew that it was just a shell formed by mist, he still immersed himself in her dangerous and mysterious aura. She was different from all the other mist souls, because she had a strong determination in her eyes, as if nothing in the world could shake her will. Yunshi's heart was beating fast. Unfortunately, she wasn't real. Mist souls were just a simulation of the real people. It just reflected a part of her aura, not her whole person. After all, his white emperor mask wasn't the almighty. Where were you from? And why did you come to me? You wanted to become a prince. Did you get your wish? Yunshi stretched out his hand and touched the mist soul. He felt cold on his fingers. It was natural, because the mist soul was just an agglomeration of water. This was mist soul's unalterable nature, and the reason why they couldn't die. After all, they were only an army taking the place of real people. What am I looking forward to? Yunshi couldn't help laughing for his foolish enthusiasm to a mist shape of Black Moon. Yes, she didn't belong to him. Even though she had agreed to his proposal, Black Moon wasn't his lover. She was like the cloud in the sky, which could be seen but could never be touched. The time spent with her was happy and memorable. However, she still refused to become his lover. Unlike the Starwings night girls, she was independent and free. You must be carrying a very heavy fate on your back. Black Moon didn't tell him anything new, but Yunshi could see it in her eyes. Her eyes were calm and cold, so beautiful and so dangerous. She must have experienced countless fights. He had been lured by her eyes, and his heart had been overthrown by her. He was having a sweet dream and didn't want to wake up. Then, let's fight together. After realizing that the mist soul wasn't really her, Yunshi immediately adjusted his attitude with his searing eyes. Even though they couldn't be a couple, at the least, he had the mist soul as the proof of their love. Shuffle. The mist soul held the black sword's blade up towards the front with an indifferent look. Undoubtedly, under Yunshi's permission, she had become the Mist Soul Army's commander and achieved her goal. A black flower was blooming in Yunshi's garden. Yunshi didn't know the reason, and one thing he was sure about, that they had never cooperated with each other before. But he could naturally understand the Mist Soul's thinking. As the strongest Mist Soul, she not only had a great executive ability but also could act alone as well. You take them to defend the south, north and western areas, and I will go to the eastern coastline, visiting the Lamia race. Yunshi assigned the task in an orderly manner. Yunkei's expansion plan seemed to be imprudent, but it really was built on facts. Apart from the mysterious dark elf Black Moon, who had become his Mist Soul Army's commander, the remaining 3 goals were all very important, even to the whole of Water God's world. On Yunkei's list, the second, the third and the fourth person all had the same identity, the Water God's High Priestess. It wasn't because of their influence in the world. The sequence was decided based on their power. The Lamia Queen was the queen of sea demons and the oldest hero ranked being in the whole of Water God's world. Undoubtedly, she was the strongest one amongst the 3 high priestesses, so she could be recorded as the second on Yunkei's list. The Mermaid Queen was the third, and the Celian Queen, the highest-ranking human in the Water God's world, was the fourth. Yes, Yunkei had already written them on the list a long time ago. To her plan, the power from the 3 high priestesses was indispensable. Since you're so good at deceiving girls into marrying you, then try your best to capture the 3 high priestesses' hearts with the fastest possible speed. Remember, they are very important to my plan. No matter whether they have married or not, you must let them join your Mist Soul Army. Looking at Yunkei's familiar handwriting on the business plan, Yunshi twisted his mouth. Yunkei, you really misunderstand me. I have never beguiled any girl into marrying me. But Yunkei was also right. If he wanted to defeat Shaolongness, the Sky Sword, then he needed to strengthen his Mist Soul Army to its and his limit. For this, the 3 high priestesses were really necessary. 3 hero-ranked high priestesses. With them, my Mist Soul Army can finally become fully operational. But I don't know any of them. How can I propose to them? Looking at the scarce information Yunkei had collected for him, Yunshi had no ideas in his mind. The 3 high priestesses were too exalted. Naturally, Yunkei couldn't find sufficient information about them by any ordinary method. Now, Yunshi was reading the Lamia Queen's information again and again. The Lamia Queen is the leader of the Lamia race. She is already thousands of years old, and has had hundreds of descendants. She is the strongest Lamia in the Lamia race's whole history. Marriage status, unknown, because no one has witnessed any male Lamias. Her dating experience should be very rich, after all, she has hundreds of descendants. Anyway, go ahead and have faith in yourself. No matter whether she is a queen or a wife, it shouldn't be a problem to you. Chapter 214, Lamia's game on the seashore. Not far away from Celian, Yunshi was sitting on the reef and thinking. Splash! Splash! Sea waves splashed on the reefs. Ah ha 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 ha. About 100 meters away from Yunshi, a dozen Lamia girls were playing. However, their game was different from human games. A 1-meter blue water ball rotated, rose, and fell in the sea with an ear-piercing whistle. It was about half a ton in weight, causing a series of circular ripples every time it rolled. These Lamia girls were playing with this frightful water ball with their screw-like tails, having an intense competition. If ordinary people saw this scene, they would be frightened into a cold sweat, because the water ball's weight was over half a ton. If ordinary people got hit by it, they would undoubtedly be severely injured. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to consider it as a kind of magical weapon. However, these Lamias could wrap and pat this frightful water ball with their tails at their command. To them, it was just a method used to practice their control force. Lamias had a strong tail, enduring physique, and a powerful bloodline. Their strength was even stronger than the green hippo. No wonder that they were called sea demons. After observing for a while, Yunshi thought that he knew the reason why the people in Celian didn't like to get close to the Lamia race. Compared to the mermaid girls, who had excellent talent for arts and were approachable, the lamias looked strange and their strength was very dangerous to humans. It was said that their method of showing their love was to coil around their lovers with their screw-like tails, but their tails were so strong that they could even strangle a hippo easily. Imagine it, an ordinary person was wrapped up by their tail because they wanted to show their love. That feeling of dread and despair could scare away anybody. The gap between the lamia race and mankind was just too wide. Suppose, if a lamia girl just sneezed, then the person that was coiled in her tail would have been squeezed to death. However, from what Yunshi had seen, such a thing wasn't very likely to happen. The lamias could control the water ball easily. It showed that they had confidence in controlling their strength. They were born with such a tenacious strength. Under the tutelage of the older lamias, they learned how to control their strength through games. Their long tails looked dreadful to humans, but to themselves, their long tails were the most important battle organs. They could even move at high speed on the ground with their tails, and their explosive force was also higher than that of a human's ultimate. What a strong race! Yunshi exclaimed. No wonder that Yunkei instructed him to propose to the Lamia queen. The Lamia race could become a strong force to his missed soul army. However, Yunshi felt a bit awkward now, because he couldn't find any chance to intervene into the Lamia girl's game. Although there were already many dozens of Lamias that had arrived at Celian, they rarely talked to humans. They formed several small parties and swam in the streams of the city, exploring around in this old water god city with curiosity. Because the Lamia queen was one of the high priestesses, humans couldn't refuse them to enter the city. However, they also didn't know how to deal with these appalling, half-human half-snake creatures, so they could only pretend that these Lamias did not exist. The Lamias didn't know how to get along with other intelligent species too. Occasionally, they would talk to the girls from the mermaid race, but most of the time, they wandered around the city alone. Yunshi had searched half of the city, and finally found them on the eastern seashore. He didn't expect that they would not live in the magnificent palaces, but preferred to live in the dark caves besides the sea. Yunshi waited in front of the cave for half an hour, then, he saw the Lamias swimming out of the cave. In the lead with several old Lamias, they played a game of water ball on the sea to practice for themselves. The game's rule was simple. The playground was a narrow rectangle that was about 1 kilometer long. The Lamia girls were divided into 2 teams, and the goal was to shoot the water ball into the other team's goal area. They could beat and bump their opponents with their tails, but couldn't use their hands. No matter what method they were using, as long as they could shoot the water ball into the other team's goal area, their team would get a point. The competition was intense, because the Lamias were striving with all their might for the win. They had used various hitting skills with their tails, which was really an eye-opening experience to Yunshi. Boom! Occasionally, such a dead sound would echo through the playground. It was the strongest blow from the strongest Lamias. Every time such a sound appeared, it would mean that one team had scored a point again. Without using any magic, they simply patted the water ball with their screw-like tails. Even so, the water ball had been accelerated to a speed that could smash any human in front of it into minced meat. Is it a kind of military maneuvers? Looking at them, Yunshi's forehead was covered with sweat. If they shot such a water ball on the battlefield, it would undoubtedly plow a long, deep gouge in the ground. No. They are just playing, and the water ball is just for training. When we are on the battlefield, we would normally squeeze the water ball 10 times tighter than the training water ball. Yunshi heard a gentle voice beside his ear, and then, he felt that a cold, flexible thing had wrapped around his waist. Chapter 2:15. His identity was revealed. The long, screw-like tail wrapped around Yunshi's waist and felt him with curiosity, making Yunshi find himself both tickled and annoyed. He didn't expect that he would meet a Lamia in this situation, even though this was what he wanted. Before he had wasted any effort, the Lamia had come to him herself in this cordial method, which could frighten ordinary people to death. "Hey, big brother, you smell good. What's your race?" This Lamia was the youngest amongst all the Lamias that had arrived at Celian. Compared to the older Lamias, whose tails were about 6 or 7 meters, her tail was only about 3 meters, therefore, she couldn't join her sister's water ball practice, and could only play with a half-a-meter water ball alone. When she was playing with the water ball, she found something strange amongst the mist on the reefs. As the youngest, she was the last one who had seen the sailing jellyfishes, who were known as the Lamia race's great mothers. The memory about sailing jellyfishes was still vivid in her mind, so she could naturally feel the sailing jellyfish-like aura emanating from the creature in the mist. Of course, if the other Lamias had touched the mist, they would notice it also. After all, sailing jellyfishes were the Lamia's great mothers, because almost all the Lamias was born with a part of the sailing jellyfish's gene. In fact, the Lamias weren't turning a blind eye to Yunshi, but his mist had deceived all the girls' eyes. If this young Lamia hadn't come to the reefs to play water ball and noticed the mist due to this, Yunshi wouldn't have been found by the Lamias even after a day. Because his body was covered by the water mist, the young Lamia couldn't see Yunshi's appearance with her eyes, so she coiled around him with her tail and touched his body with it. "This is your hand, and this is your leg. Strange, you are not a deep-sea octopus nor a shellfish. Who are you, big brother?" Wrapping around Yunshi's waist with her screw-like tail, the girl asked Yunshi in confusion. Deep-sea races often covered their bodies in mist when they went onto land, so the young girl thought that Yunshi could be a deep-sea demon. This was also the reason why Yunshi could cover himself in mist when he was walking on the street, because people thought that he was a deep-sea demon too. "Are you a mermaid?" "But big brother, you don't have a tail." The young Lamia remembered and couldn't think of any deep-sea race that was like Yunshi. In order to ascertain Yunshi's true face, she coiled Yunshi in her tail tightly and moved herself around to face him. "Okay, I will show myself." Yunshi surrendered. It seemed that he couldn't keep hiding. Fortunately, he was going to talk to the Lamias from the beginning. Yunshi dispelled his water mist field and showed his face to the young girl. "Your face. I have never seen such beautiful horns." Looking at Yunshi's silver mask in surprise, the young Lamia could sense the special energy in the silver horns on Yunshi's mask. This was the first time she was so close to the water god's power. The god power in the horns was even heavier than the Lamia's great mothers, the sailing jellyfishes. "Big brother, you must be from one of the strongest illusory magic sea races." The young girl looked at Yunshi with her eyes sparkling. As the youngest Lamia, she hadn't touched anything with such a strong, sea demon feeling before. It was said that there were some rare races living in the deepest seas, who had the ability to change their shapes at will. "No, I'm not a sea demon, and they are not my horns. Look, it's just a mask." Yunshi told the young girl to touch his silver mask. "It's beautiful and cold. Is it part of you?" The young Lamia licked Yunshi's mask with her tongue, then his cheek and ear. Compared to coiling somebody in their tails, which was too intimate as an etiquette, licking each other's ear was far more intimate an etiquette to Lamias. It was a gift from the great water god. Yunshi looked at the young girl. Obviously, compared to the Lamias that were playing the water ball, she was still young in both mind and body. Even so, she still had the Lamia race's most striking features: enchanting eyes, vertical pupils and flexible body. Coiling around Yunshi's body with her tail, she could do it as naturally as breathing. In close contact with the girl, Yunshi could feel the wonderful touch of her body. Her body was so soft as if she didn't have bones, which was really disturbing to Yunshi's mind. A gift from the great water god. "Big brother, can you be that man?" The young girl's pupils contracted. Due to nervousness, her tail coiled around Yunshi's waist tightly. If Yunshi was an ordinary person, he would have been squeezed to death. Yes, the silver mask, a legendary mask which contains the great water god's power. Its name is the White Emperor, and only the highest apostle who is beloved by the water god can hold it. He is that apostle. Yes, I'm the apostle, Yunshi said frankly. Chapter 216, A Small Promise. Big brother, you are, that, maybe the young Lamia was too excited, the squeezing of her tail had almost become 2 times stronger. Fortunately, Yunshi's body had been enhanced by the power from his 108 brides and was being protected by the water mist field, so he didn't get hurt. Yes, I am. Can you let go of me? Yunshi literally understood why humans couldn't fall in love with the Lamias. No human whose rank was below the hero rank could withstand the Lamia's strong tail. If an ordinary person fell in love with a girl of the Lamia race, the only end for that person was being squeezed to death. Besides, the Lamia race had the snake demon bloodline, which meant that their copulation time was extremely long. It was said that snakes could take 12 hours to accomplish a mating without sleep or rest during the period. Obviously, it was impossible to any normal human. Oh, you really are the apostle. The young girl didn't release him but coiled around his waist with a much stronger force. Humans often hold their lovers tightly to show their love. When it came to the Lamias, when they got excited, they would coil around their lovers tightly with their tails. At this moment, Yunshi was really feeling the young girl's enthusiasm. Well, hello, my name is Fea, Lamia Gorgon Fea. I'm 100 years old this year, the youngest child of the Lamia race. My height is 6 meters, and my breast size is, well, my breasts are not big but are still developing. I like to play water ball and hunt squid. I don't know if I can make you feel satisfied, but I want to be your bride. The young Lamia said with a red face. I want to have 20 children, so that they can form 2 teams to play the water ball game. Don't underestimate me, because I'm really good at playing water ball. You can ask my sisters about it. Although I can't join them because I'm too small, but they all call me once in 1,000 years genius. They like listening to my analysis about tactics. After learning Yunshi's real identity, the young girl, Fea, became enthusiastic. She was the boldest and most radical girl amongst all the Lamias that had arrived at Celian. She was still young, so she hadn't become prejudiced to mankind. She was still full of curiosity for everything. Of course, have a baby was one of the things she was curious about. As the youngest, she still remembered her surrogate mother, a sailing jellyfish. After sailing jellyfishes disappeared in the deep sea for no reason, she was the most upset. According to the Lamia's tradition, she shouldn't come onto the ground and appear in front of the public, because she was only 100 years old. Compared to the long life she would have, she was still a baby who needed to be protected by sailing jellyfishes. But, after the last sailing jellyfish disappeared, she had to return to the Lamias and be brought up by her sisters. Because she had lost her great mother, the sailing jellyfish, she was eager to have a baby, to get rid of the feeling called loneliness. She was only 100 years old. She thought that if she had a baby, she would be able to play with her child. The whole Lamia race didn't have any children apart from her, therefore, no one played with her all those years. All of the Lamia race was in a state of anxiety. After all, without the help from sailing jellyfishes, they couldn't produce any descendants. In theory, they could produce offspring if they could find strong, willing sea demons and obtain their genes, but the strong sea demons had also disappeared together with the sailing jellyfishes. No one had ever seen one of them in the last dozens of years. Fea, right? You are still young. You don't need to consider such a thing so early. Yunshi looked at Fea, who was so innocent that she displayed all her thinking on her face. At any rate, I won't marry such a child. Even Yunkei's insane expansion plan didn't calculate for a child. A 100-year-old human was already old enough, but for the Lamia race, a 100-year-old Lamia was still a toddler, which could be proved by the fact that she wasn't allowed to join in the water ball game. She can't be my bride. Oh. I'm 100 years old. I'm not too young. I can have my babies. Feiya threw out her chest in front of Yunxi, as if she was trying to prove something. No. You are too young. Yunxi refused her and moved his eyes away. It would become a crime if he married her. Even though he needed as many fiancés as he could get, but Feiya wasn't on his list. However, if it was the Lamia queen, Yunxi didn't know if he could control himself. Ooh. Everyone tells me I'm not too young. I'm not too small. I will grow up very soon. I'm a genius. A real genius. Feiya cried. I can't marry him because I'm only 100 years old. No. Our race doesn't have any rule to prevent puppy love. This is so unreasonable. Calm down, calm down. Don't cry. Looking at little Feiya's crying face, Yunxi had no idea what to do with his hands and feet. Sigh, at the least, I should give her some hope. How about this? I will marry you after you become a good woman. Don't you think that's good? Really? Can I? Feiya looked at Yunxi in surprise. Yes, it's a promise, Yunxi said and nodded. Anyway, the Lamia race had a very long life. After she became a good woman, hundreds of years should have passed. Chapter 217, The Excited Lamias. Then, we need to take an oath. Feiya stretched out her finger, seemingly she was going to draw a hook with Yunxi. Yunxi stretched out his hand. Feiya held his hand tightly and gently bit his ear with her small, white teeth. Yunxi felt a slight ache, then he touched the bite mark on his ear. The oath has been signed, big brother. Feiya looked at Yunxi with a happy smile. This ceremony of the Lamias was really strange. To Lamias, this was a ceremony for love, exchanging the Lamia's venom in her teeth and her lover's blood in his body. It represented the oath of never to be separated. Human moral principles meant nothing to Lamias. The exchange of bodily fluids was much more suitable than any oath in their hearts. Is it okay? Yunxi stroked his ear with curiosity. He only felt a slight ache with no side effects, as if he was just being gently licked. Yes. I'm satisfied. Feiya smiled happily. The bite was just a small incident to Yunxi, but to her and even the whole Lamia race, it was a giant leap. Sisters. Sisters. Feiya happily danced around Yunxi. She called to the Lamias who were playing the water ball game in a pleasant tone. The Lamias were resting at half-time. Just in time, they noticed Feiya's call. What happened, little Feiya? What's this mist? Anything good inside it? You look happy. It seems like good things are happening to you, Feiya. Feiya's long tail coiled, moving around to show her nimble and charming body. It was a dance called the Dance of Enchantment, an extempore dance the Lamias would dance when they were in an extremely good mood. Come on, come on. Feiya's screw-like tail coiled around Yunxi's waist again. Okay, don't push me. Yunxi smiled bitterly. He thought that he should show himself now. After having a really close encounter with a Lamia, he realized that there were many mistakes in the information Yunkei had offered him. The information said that Lamias were all snake-like demons, who were extremely dangerous and horrifying. They were strong, arrogant and unforgiving. Once they thought that you were an enemy, they wouldn't give up before you had been torn into pieces. Humans and the Lamias were all the water gods' people, but humans refused to accept the Lamias and to live together with them. For a longish time, it had become a normal prejudice amongst humans. However, the Lamias were all very strong, therefore, humans could do nothing to them and could only avoid staying together with them. That being said, what Yunshi had seen was a healthy, energetic race. Even the youngest liked to practice every day. They were not demons who only liked moist and dark caves. They also liked to play under the sun and show their charms to the public. Maybe their special greeting was frightening to humans, but they didn't mean to do any harm. Coiling around their friend with their tails was just their way of saying hello. Dispel. Yunshi dispelled all the mist around him and walked to the Lamias. Look, he is the apostle. The apostle our queen mentioned before. Faya was still tightly coiled around Yunshi's waist as she waved her hands to her sisters. Then, the reaction of the Lamias was really an eye-opening experience for Yunshi. At first, they fell into a shocked silence. They looked astonished and amazed and was at a loss for what to do. After a while, a Lamia exclaimed, "Oh, is he that man? I can't be mistaken. I can feel the great water god's power from the mist and his silver mask. Wait, why didn't we receive a notice? It's strange. Why are they so panicked?" Yunshi felt puzzled. Do I look strange? Soon afterwards, he knew the reason. No. This is too sudden. I haven't put on my most beautiful jewelry. Whoa. Don't look over here. My shell necklace, where is my shell necklace? Go. Quickly, the Lamias swam away. They scrambled back into the cave, overturning their trunks and boxes. Don't take my jewelry, sister. Don't be silly, we bought it together. First come first served. Where is my ivory comb? Oh God, who stole my pearl powder? Be quick, don't keep him waiting. Yunshi looked at the dark cave with a dumbfounded look. He couldn't imagine what was happening inside it. Sisters are very happy. They have prepared for this moment for a long time. Faya covered her mouth and smiled. Her sisters were dressing themselves up, and she had obtained the apostle's pledge of love. She was really proud of herself because she got it first. Wait, I'm the first. No, it's me. Stop quarreling, let's battle it out. Boom. After several fearful explosive sounds, the Lamias finally came out of the cave. However, there were several Lamias in the first line looking flustered. It seemed that they had a fierce battle before coming out, so that they could find their position in the first line. Hello, great water god's apostle. We are Lamias. We came to Celian in response to your wish. According to what Yunshi had seen, the leader of the Lamias was the strongest in the water ball game. Compared to Faya, who was still innocent and naive, apparently, the leader understood human etiquette. However, her tail was twirling behind her back, which had exposed the true titillation she was feeling. Not only was it just her. All the Lamias were looking at Yunshi with curiosity and excitement. They could clearly feel the water god's power from his white emperor mask. Chapter 218, Jealousy. Hello, as you see, I'm the apostle. As the Lamias looked at him, Yunshi couldn't stop his heart from beating faster. He felt nervous, because they were not just some village girls nor the Starwings night girls. Instead, Lamias were one of the strongest races in this world. Although none of these girls were at the hero rank, they were still far stronger than most living beings in this world. Lamias are a race that is at the top of the food chain in this world. Yunshi thought that even the green hippo couldn't withstand a single blow from them, because their screw-like muscular tails could play with the half-a-ton water ball as a toy. This was who the overlords of the deep sea were, the Lamia race. Oh. He is really that man. He speaks. He speaks. We're so lucky. Am I dreaming? The girls' excitement was running high. Their eyes were much more pure than any human girls Yunshi had met, with sparkling lights shining in their vertical pupils. They look very happy. I wouldn't have guessed it. Sisters, you are behaving very badly. Faya tittered. Unintentionally, her screw-like tail coiled around Yunshi's waist much tighter. Faya, let go of the apostle. You're being impolite. Yes, didn't our queen tell us that we shouldn't coil around humans so casually? Humans would feel scared due to this, so it's impolite. Faya, come back. I have some tasty treats for you. The Lamias noticed the compromising position between Faya and Yunshi, as a jealous expression came upon their faces. Why? Faya was the youngest. How had she become the first? Humph. My sisters are all liars. Faya exposed her teeth at her sisters mischievously. She made a face at them and announced proudly, I and the apostle have performed the ritual and have had those relations too. The Lamias were all flabbergasted. They all looked at her with a look of total disbelief. No, it can't be true. That was what all the Lamia sisters felt in their hearts. Faya, you're still too young. Do you know what you are saying? Those relations. Do you really understand its meaning? I didn't think that I taught you how to be a liar. Faya brought her face near Yunshi's ear with a naughty look. Then, she softly licked his ear and revealed the scar on his ear. Sisters, you are too late. Faya said flatly. Whoa. Why? Why? Faya. Faya has become the first. When did she do it? The apostle should have just arrived here, when we were playing the water ball game. No. Had I also went to practice with the water ball alone, the Lamias all cried, as if they had just been thwarted in love. This isn't good, and I shouldn't turn a blind eye to their circumstances. Yunshi thought. Well, I do think you are all misunderstanding something. I have done nothing to Faya. We are both still pristine. Yunshi explained the fact that he didn't commit a crime with the young girl. Yes, it's a secret of the adults. Apart from this, we are guiltless. Faya couldn't help but laugh. Shuffle. Shamble. Shuffle. Her words struck a heavy blow to her sisters' hearts. They became more agitated. Yunshi looked at the girls in confusion. It seemed that something he didn't understand was happening. What can I do now? There is no better way than to go marching forward courageously. I want to marry as many of you as I can. Faya won't be my only bride. There. I said it. It was outrageous and shameless, but in the water god's world, it could be forgiven. Because it is the only method that I have to save this world. Gee. Is it, for real? So it wasn't fake news after all. The apostle really wants to have a lot of brides. Faya couldn't satisfy you alone. Yunshi's words were like a fire in the darkness or the sun in the chilly winter. His words ignited the girls' flames of hope. There is still a chance. They all thought. Since he wouldn't only marry Faya, then they still had a chance. Cough, not that I mean that Faya couldn't satisfy me, I mean, Yunshi felt really embarrassed. Anyway, she is still too young, isn't she? I wasn't going to do anything to her now, Yunshi said. What he thought he was saying was gibberish. It was true, but it still sounded like he was deceiving these innocent girls. Probably they wouldn't doubt his words, because they were so innocent. Yeah. The rumor was real. Apostle, could you be a man who likes the so-called harem? That doesn't matter, cried out one sister. We don't mind that at all, cried another. We are confident about our forthcoming night activities. Another sister confided. The rest nodding their heads in agreement. The Lamias looked thrilled. As expected, they wouldn't doubt the water god's apostle, so they accepted his words immediately. Humph. What a heartbreaker you are. Faya complained and bit Yunshi's ear again. Of course, she had known of this earlier. She just wanted to show off her trophy to her sisters before they found out. Did I succeed? Yunshi sighed. If possible, I want to be an upright gentleman. However, the world will not give me such a chance. Chapter 219. Their hope. The Lamia support is absolutely crucial to my plan. In whatever manner or way, you must marry them all, especially the hero-ranked Lamia queen. You must stake everything you have, because you are not being given the option of failure. Remembering Yunkei's order, Yunshi smiled bitterly. It really was a tough task. Fortunately, he did well, didn't he? These Lamias were really enthusiastic about him. Hey Apostle, what position do you like? I like the reverse cowgirl position. If we can get married, I hope that our nuptial night can last for 3 days and 3 nights, said the most excellent girl amongst all Lamias present. Incidentally, her breasts were also the biggest. I don't care what position it will be, but I do hope that you can stroke my tail at that time, said the second girl, who had the longest tail. When the sisters talked, Faya felt confused about the discussion. She was still ignorant to the carnal knowledge of being married. Sisters, what are you saying? Don't couples have babies simply by holding each other? Didn't our queen go to sleep in the sailing jellyfish's tentacles, then we were born? Asked Faya. Well, it was really a Lamia style. Yunshi knew of the process of Lamias being impregnated and giving birth. They could have babies simply by sleeping in the sailing jellyfish's tentacles. Of course, he wasn't a sailing jellyfish, so he didn't have such a fantastic ability. Therefore, if he wanted to make the Lamias pregnant, he had to use a more traditional, skin-to-skin method. Faya's sisters had learned this from the queen, and only Faya herself hadn't understood it. She was too young, and her sisters didn't teach her this knowledge, which she couldn't find in the books either. My sister's words are outlandish. Apostle, you will teach me, won't you? This time, it was Faya's turn to feel jealous of her sisters. She could feel a sweet aura amongst her sisters and the apostle when they looked at each other. Yunshi is completely misunderstanding the situation. For the first time, she saw such a happy look on her sisters' faces. Their bodies were spreading a sweet smell. The sweet smell was a unique odor of adult Lamias, which she would obtain in the near future since she was still too young. Faya had to admit that she was still too naive. Her aura was far inferior to her sisters. She failed to understand her sisters' enthusiastic smiles. With discontent and anxiety in her heart, her tail coiled around Yunshi's waist very much tighter. What is it? What is this knowledge? I don't know, but my sisters all understand. Since she had signed the contract with the apostle, what was this unknowing that still made her feel uneasy? Who, as expected, little Faya still doesn't understand it. She is too young. It's natural that she doesn't understand it. When I heard that she had done that with the apostle, I thought. So it was just a misunderstanding. The elder Lamias whispered to each other with a reassuring look on their faces. Of course, they weren't conspiring with each other to exclude Faya. They just thought that Faya was still too young to learn that knowledge. Even they themselves just learned that knowledge from the queen before they came to Celian. Oh, why don't you sisters tell me? What are you talking about? Faya gazed at her sisters with her big innocent eyes. My sisters all liked me. Why are they looking at me with an amused look now? Well, Faya, you are still young. We will teach you about it after you have grown up. Yes, Faya, you will understand it after you have become a good woman. It would be a comfortable thing to do that with your lover, the queen told me so. The enthusiastic Lamias naturally revealed their true feelings after knowing that Faya wouldn't be the apostle's only bride. Maybe they knew nothing about love, however, they were also looking forward to having babies with their chosen one. First, the chosen one must be strong, because weak creatures couldn't offer Lamias the genes they needed. Of course, hero-ranked Yunshi perfectly met this requirement. The chosen one must believe in the great water god, because Lamias were the water god's most loyal people. Naturally, as the water god's apostle, Yunshi fulfilled this point, because he was beloved by the god. Last but not the least, the chosen one must accept the Lamia race from the bottom of his heart, by not being scared away like ordinary humans. Alright, Yunshi also met this point, because he never cared about his bride's race and identity. The 3 requirements were all they had asked. They had never wished for more. Since Yunshi had perfectly met these 3 requirements, naturally, the Lamias had a crush on him from the beginning. When they knew that Faya had become his bride, they seemed almost ready to cry, because they thought that they had lost their opportunity. But, after Yunshi said that he didn't mind having more brides, the flames of hope was ignited again in their hearts. Since Faya could obtain his love, it might as well be me. They thought. The great apostle is really considerate. As expected, you were chosen by the great water god to change the fate of the Lamias. Chapter 220. Summon. As Faya looked at Yunshi with jealousy, the enthusiastic Lamias were chatting their hopes about a future with Yunshi. Apostle, how many children do you want to have? I think having 7 children is fine. They can form a team. The apostle's children will be handsome and beautiful. Only when talking about children, did the Lamias become so excited. The Lamia race had had no new members for the last 100 years. The youngest Lamia, Faya, hadn't finished her childhood education in the sailing jellyfish's lair when they left, and had to return to the Lamia race, becoming their most favorite little sister. Therefore, they also hoped that they could have babies as soon as possible, so that their babies could play with Faya. No. The apostle has promised to me that we will have 2 teams of children. Faya was beyond her perseverance. She was the first, after all. The first one who found the apostle, the first one who coiled around the apostle's waist with her tail, and the first one who had obtained the apostle's promise. She was the first. Why were her sisters whispering endearments of love, and baby-making talk with the apostle instead of her? It is so unfair. I can do whatever my sisters can do. Apostle, make babies with me. Immediately. Right now. Faya threw out her chest. Her bold statement really shocked all the people present. Yes, this is it. I must be a step ahead of my sisters. I don't understand the process, but it doesn't matter, because the apostle must know it. He can teach me. Well, Faya, do you even know what you are saying? Even the boldest Lamia was shocked by her youngest sister's words. I heard that your first time is painful. You are too young. Your body can't support you while you copulate for 12 hours. Yes, it's too early for you. Hey, don't be so straightforward with a child. Yunshi looked at the Lamias embarrassed, who were trying to persuade their youngest sister. At the same time, he also realized that if a person's body quality hasn't reached the hero rank, then it was really a bad idea to fall in love with any Lamia, because no ordinary people could copulate 12 hours straight without sleep and rest. Besides, it sounded like 12 hours was just the most basic requirement. These excellent lamias were hoping for a copulation time of 3 days and 3 nights or more. Yunshi didn't even dare to imagine what would happen to him if he really married these lamias. Probably, they would want me to carry on the responsibility for propagating the entire lamia race. As for him, he only needed to stay in the cave and repeat the process of 3 days and 3 nights over and over again. It would really become a lamia festival, but my body would soon collapse due to being overworked. I'm not small, and, even if it would be painful, I can bear it. Faya pouted. She shouted seriously while holding her small fists clenched tightly, "Yes, no matter what will happen, I can stand them all. This is the reason I can't do it," said Yunshi, listening to Faya's statement. Yunshi understood how naive her mental age was. It really would be a crime. Ho ho. Faya cried. Is it all due to my age? She had never thought of that before. It's not my fault I'm so immature. Don't worry, Faya. You will become a most excellent lamia woman, Yunshi comforted her. He wiped off her tears and smiled. You should be more confident. Really? Can I become the most excellent lamia woman? Faya looked at Yunshi with longing. Yes, believe in me, Faya. You can become the most attractive lamia. Yunshi hesitated for a moment, then said, because your body contains a very special energy. It was true. The White Emperor mask had let him find a hidden powerful energy in Faya's body from the beginning. It was a very powerful energy, but it wasn't stable. It was being sealed by something, which should be an artifact that was similar to his mask. Faya was different than the other lamias, because she was carrying a very special fate. Maybe if she could release the energy in her body, she would be able to grow up quicker. Wait, if that came true, then how about my promise? Yunshi suddenly had a feeling that he was caught up in his own trap. I will become stronger than my sisters. Faya smiled through her tears after hearing Yunshi's prediction. This girl's bad mood was like the summer rain, here 1 minute and gone the next. After comforting Faya, Yunshi asked the lamias around him, can you take me to your queen? I have to ask her something. Apostle, you're looking for our queen. She is in a nearby sea area, but, do you really want to see her immediately? The lamias asked. They felt unusual about Yunshi's request. Yes, it's important, answered Yunshi decisively. I have already come here, so there is no way back. Okay, let us call the queen then. The lamias looked at each other, then formed a circle. Faya, please do it. The strongest lamia stood in the center of the circle and waved her hand to Faya. I know, sister. Faya left Yunshi reluctantly. She skulked into the circle and nicked the blood vessel on her fin with her fingernail. A drop of crimson blood dripped into the transparent water ball in front of her and spread around in the water bowl. Ha! The strongest lamia swung her tail with all her might, whipping the water ball into the sky. The next second, all the lamias hissed in a weird tone. At the same time, the water ball exploded in the air. With his mask's power, Yunshi could see the mist from the exploded water ball spreading around in the air. Soon after, the mist had covered a large area of the sea. Some information contained in the mist was being blended into the sea and spread through the water with an incredible speed. Boom! A thunderous sound came from a very distant place. Chapter 221, The Queen's True Body. A tsunami roared forward, rushing to the coastline from the sea horizon. The blue sea trembled beneath that horrible sound. The tsunami was over 100 meters tall, moving toward the coastline like a wall. Boom! A huge black figure stood on the wave, looking like a storm, like lightning, like a catastrophe. How huge is she? Yunshi looked at the giant creature coming in with the wave. He was totally flabbergasted. The oppressive sense he now felt was already at the limit of what common humans could stand. If we're quantifying it, ordinary lamias could make a human feel 10 units of fear, but then the giant creature, who was rushing to this place, could cause 1,000 units of fear in humans. Her serpentine tail was already over 100 meters long. Although her upper body looked human, but actually was also over dozens of meters tall. It wasn't an exaggeration to describe her as a leviathan-like monster. Yunshi knew the Lamia Queen was the king of all sea demons, but her true body was so huge. It was far beyond his imagination. "Fea, why are you calling me?" The familiar voice shook the sky and the earth. The tsunami collapsed, turning into millions of water drops at the instant it touched the coastline. The Lamia Queen, who had seen Yunshi before, drew herself up and looked down at the Lamias. Well, Yunshi blushed, because the Lamia Queen wasn't wearing anything. Maybe it was because she had done strenuous exercise before, for her white skin was flushed pink. The 2 peaks on her chest weren't saggy due to their enormous volume and weight and were still standing tall like a pair of mellow fruits. Her underbelly was smooth without overlap. In the middle was her cute belly button. And when Yunshi looked down, he saw her long slender tail. If you overlooked her huge size, she was indeed the most beautiful and mature Lamia woman. Her special charms were much more overwhelming than all the young Lamias together. Oh my! The Apostle. Why are you here? Finally, the Lamia Queen noticed Yunshi. She looked surprised and awkward. As the water drops splashed down, the Lamia Queen turned into the beautiful form Yunshi was familiar with. Sorry, I was lost in concern. Compared to the young Lamias who were too excited, the Lamia Queen was much more calm. It's me who should apologize, because I am the one who came here out of the blue. The Queen's seductive body was still vivid in Yunshi's mind. He could barely look at the Queen without embarrassment. My daughters, you were overreacting. Don't you know the ritual of summoning means something urgent is happening? If I knew it was for our great apostle, I wouldn't have come so hastily with my true body. The Lamia Queen fretted. These little girls were really thoughtless. The humans who were still alive after seeing her true body could be counted on her fingers. We did it because the apostle wanted to see you as soon as possible. The apostle's dictate is of the highest priority. Fea even donated her blood. The young Lamias laughed. They didn't fear of the majestic queen, because half of them were the queen's direct descendants. Compared to calling her queen, they preferred to call her mom. It's not surprising for your daughters to act like spoiled children in front of their mother, is it? You kids. You are still unmarried and you already dare to disobey your mom, The Lamia Queen sighed and shook her head. It seems that I must teach them how to become good ladies. They just came to Celian several days ago and have already forgotten the regulations of the Lamias. The ritual of summoning was called Blood Seal, which should only be used at the most critical time. She thought that they were in danger, so she immediately rushed to this place at full speed. Mary. Oh, we indeed need to discuss the date of marriage, said the young Lamias. I think the next full moon night is a good choice. We will all be vigorous at that time, suggested one of the more mature girls. The apostle wants a lot of brides, and Fea has become his first bride. The Lamias looked at Yunshi with longing and happiness. Well, does he? That's good. The Lamia's queen looked at her daughters in surprise. At first, she thought that the apostle would be very picky, therefore, only the several most excellent Lamias would be able to stand a chance to marry him. The Lamia queen thought, why does it seem that they all have a chance to become the apostle's bride? And why was it Faya? Why was she the first? What had happened? Well, Your Majesty, there is something I need to talk to you about, Yunshi said nervously. He hesitated for a while at first, but finally pulled up his socks. Since he wanted to marry the queen, he'd better tell the queen about his missed soul army, so that it would be possible for her to understand and to agree to his proposal. Wow! We are not enough. You want to marry our queen too? You are really brave. Be forewarned, our queen is special. She is the strongest queen of the Lamias. The Lamias immediately realized what Yunshi was planning to do. They all looked at him with a strange look. Well, aren't you afraid of me? The Lamia queen looked at Yunshi in surprise. He has seen my true body and he is still not afraid of me. Based on her past experiences, no humans could be sane and sound of mind after witnessing her true body. Humans would instinctively be frightened by giant creatures. Her true body had become many humans' nightmare and made many people go insane. Yes. I have no racial prejudices, Yunshi said sincerely. When he met her for the first time, he had realized that she was very dangerous. She was the strongest being he had met in the water god's world. However, compared to his ex-girlfriends, she was nothing dangerous. Once he remembered that he was still being wanted by his ex-girlfriends, he immediately had the confidence to overcome all obstacles. You are really a strange child, the Lamia queen smiled and nodded. Okay, I will listen to you. Let's go. Chapter 222, Requirement. What's it like to experience a date with the Lamia queen? Well. The mountainous waves roared inside Yunshi's ears, as if the heavens and the earth had been reversed. Compared to Yunshi's water mist field, the Lamia queen's power was much more furious, like a moving natural disaster. 50 minutes later, she had took Yunshi into the open sea, which was far away from Celian. And this wasn't the destination. It was just a starting point. Come on, let's go to the water god temple. The Lamia queen shook her screw-like tail, then, a 1-kilometer maelstrom appeared under his feet. As if there was a black cave that suddenly appeared in the sea, they fell into the maelstrom rapidly. When the Lamia queen turned into her human form again, they had stepped onto a world that Yunshi could have never imagined. The vault was covered in infinite darkness. Occasionally, some glowing fish swam across the vault. Millions of tons seawater was completely cut off outside of the building by some unknown power. The water god temple was under the deep sea where they may have been 10 kilometers in depth or more, but it showed no trace of being soaked by water. The body of the temple was made of rare marble, and over 10 stone pillars were supporting the temple's roof mightily. A big pillar was standing upright in the center of the temple, spreading a special sense of the water god's power. Welcome to our deep-sea demon's temple. In fact, this temple is even older than the temple in Celian. I am the water god's high priestess, the guardian of this temple, and the owner of the sea demon's mirror. The Lamia queen held Yunshi's hand and rambled on the stone road, introducing the pride of sea demons, the deep-sea water god temple. Humans weren't allowed to enter this temple, because this was the sacred land of sea demons and the homeland of the Lamias. The sea demon's mirror. Yunshi could feel that something in the temple was resonating with his white emperor mask. It was similar to the holy scepter the Celian queen held, but the aura on it was much deeper and older. It's a relic for us Lamias and all sea demons. In fact, we Lamias weren't an intelligent race. We were just some beasts at that time. However, the sea demon's mirror transformed our life form so that we were close to a humans. It was the key that has changed the fate of our race, the Lamia queen said gently. She led Yunshi to the sacrificial altar under the giant black pillar. The same as other water god temples, there was no idol in the sacrificial altar, because the water god didn't need idols to symbolize itself. It was already the supreme god in this world. On the sacrificial altar was a blue mirror, reflecting the endless sea in it. Occasionally, Yunshi could even see some sea demons swimming across the scene in the mirror. "Apostle, why do you want me to marry you?" The Lamia queen asked and waited for Yunshi's answer. "In fact, it's about my white emperor mask." Yunshi honestly told her his mask's ability and the news of the sky sword's coming. "I see. So it explains why I witnessed strange slimes in the deep sea. Is this world going to be changed?" It seemed as if the Lamia queen had seen what was going to happen through Yunshi's eyes. "So, you need brides to offer you powers. I see. I can lend you my power. I can agree to your proposal." The Lamia queen smiled. "Really?" Yunshi looked at the Lamia queen in surprise. He didn't expect that the queen would be so approachable. "But, I have a requirement." The Lamia queen gave Yunshi a mysterious smile and continued, "If you want to obtain my love, firstly, you must love my race. You must accept all Lamias. Only in this way can I believe in you and fight for you without reservation. This is a promise of the Lamias. As long as you can do that, we will keep our promise." "Really? Is that all?" Yunshi looked at the Lamia queen in astonishment. Gradually, his eyes misted and his face blushed. Why? Why did he think that she was so beautiful at this moment? "Since you are the only hope of our world, then we actually have no choice, right?" The Lamia queen's heart was beating faster, because she was trying to use the Lamia's occult arts to entice the young man in front of her. Yunshi had thought wrong. Compared to his needs, the Lamias wanted him more. The sailing jellyfishes had disappeared. Under this circumstance, Yunshi was actually the Lamia race's only choice to father the future. This must be the will of the god. The Lamia queen believed this without a shadow of doubt. The world was being changed, and something new was happening. The disappearance of the sailing jellyfishes, the sky sword's coming, and the appearance of the White Emperor mask were all parts of the world's fate. Everything was the great water god's will. "Then, I swear here, I will accept the whole Lamia race. I will regard all Lamias as my most precious treasures. I will protect and care them with my life." You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.